It's 6:30. Good evening, everybody. We'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for August 10th to order. To start our meeting, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I just want to point out that the main topic this evening is what we call a non-resident taxpayers meeting, which we hold every summer, just about this time. And as part of that meeting, we'll have some presentations. During that meeting, it's my intent to introduce some of the new members of town government, if you will. But before we do that, before we get to that, in the weekly briefing, I first want to introduce our new police chief, David Gilmet. Please stand up, David. Comes to us from the town of Sandwich, and believe me, he's well qualified to lead us, and he's already digging in and finding a lot of interesting things, working with both residents in the town of Harwich and also getting his team to keep doing what they do and what they do best, and that's serve the public and protect the public. Tonight we have the distinct privilege and honor of actually elevating one of our officers to the position of sergeant. So, Chief, I would like you to take that over and introduce our new sergeant, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm almost certain that there are probably many more people that know Paul in the room than me. Is that correct?
Yes.
I'm very pleased to introduce Officer, just for this evening alone now, Officer Paul Borak, to Mr. Chairman and the members of the board and the people and the citizens of Harwich. Just by way of introduction, a little background on Paul. He joined Harwich PD in 2002. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Curry College. He's a certified crash reconstructionist. Those are the guys that go out to the bad crash scenes and figure out exactly what happened in criminal charges and investigate them completely and thoroughly. Okay, there's a very high level of training involved in that. And Harwich PD has always really taken the lead on that in this region. Very proud of that at our PD. So as a crash reconstructionist, Paul was assigned to the traffic unit in 2004. He's also served on the ATV unit and as a field training officer and a background investigator, and he's been served on the interview panel for new hires at Harwich PD. In 2006, he earned OIC status. OIC, for those of you who don't know, stands for Officer in Charge. Though he's not the rank of a sergeant, he actually does the job of a sergeant as what we refer to as a patrol supervisor by supervising a shift of officers. So Paul's been doing that intermittently since 2006, basically for the past 7 years. So he's already has experience in running a shift. He's served as an exemplary patrol officer, and I am extremely confident, as the rest of the command staff at Harwich PD, that he'll continue on in that vein to serve us do an excellent job for us as sergeant on Harwich PD. So, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I would definitely appreciate your support on this decision, and we are behind Paul to be our next sergeant 100%.
Great. Thank you. Congratulations. You will notice he has a taser in front of his belt, so we had no choice. I will say that on the consent agenda, we will be taking up the actual confirmation, so which should be fine. Chief, did you want to say anything else? Just introducing yourself, or anything else you want to say? Just you're welcome to for about 2 minutes.
Don't put me on the spot or anything. No, I'm good. I just want to say my door is always open. Obviously, I know tonight we're talking with the non-resident taxpayers, so I'll be attending that portion of the meeting. Obviously, by way of introduction for myself, I come from just down the road in Sandwich. I served on Sandwich PD for 28 years. Lived on Cape Cod since roughly 1973. And really enjoy police work, continue to enjoy it. I was attracted to Harwich because of the similarities between Harwich and Sandwich and the excellent reputation that Harwich PD has. And I'm just really thrilled and looking forward to working with such a great group and moving forward in the direction that they've always had, which is very high quality, community-oriented policing. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Okay, anybody else for weekly briefing? We'll move on to the non-resident taxpayers meeting. Janelle, would you read the notice, please?
The Harwich Board of Selectmen will hold the annual non-resident taxpayers meeting on Monday, August 10th, 2015, no earlier than 6:30 p.m. during their regular meeting in the Don B. Griffin Meeting Room, located at 732 Main Street in Harwich. All Harwich non-resident taxpayers are encouraged to attend this informational meeting, which will provide an overview of town government and provide non-resident taxpayers an opportunity to raise and discuss issues and concerns. Topics include introduction of new police chief, water superintendent, and finance director, report from the highway director, report from the harbor master, report from the recreation director, wastewater issues, overall financial position of the town, questions and comments. Submitted by the Harwich Board of Selectmen to the Cape Cod Chronicle, July 30th, 2015, and August 6th, 2015.
Thank you, Janelle. Okay, so we introduced Chief David Gilmet, Police Chief David Gilmet already. Water Superintendent Dan Pelletier, see here, there he is. You might want to come up and just tell us 2 minutes about yourself, just you know, where you came from. We're hearing good things about what's going on in the water department these days, and I know they're glad to have you on board, and so are we. So welcome, Dan.
Thank you. It's been a great 2 months. I was greeted by wonderful staff and facilities, one of which we just put online at the beginning of the summer. It's over off of North Westgate Road. It's pumping about 500,000 gallons a day on average. Month of July, we pumped 146.5 million gallons. Our max day for the summer was 6.5 million gallons, and that was August 2nd. Department always encourages conservation. My recommendations, anyone with irrigation, would like to see a rain gauge. We've all seen irrigation going off in the middle of a rainstorm. Department offers a number of services. We have the service type protection plan. It's essentially an insurance program from your curb stop through your water meter, and a seasonal turn off and turn on program with lockbox, so we can drain the water service coming to your house when winter comes. Prior to coming here, I worked in the town of Norwell as a treatment facilities manager. I have a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Wentworth, and just happy to be here. It's been
Okay.
great.
Thank you. Some of the folks that are non-residents might be asking the question, what about those little water department signs we see with different colors on them and whatnot as we drive around the roads? Maybe you can...
We are not currently in water restrictions, mandatory. We always, again, like I said, encourage conservation, but there's a little X that gets adjusted, just like the forest fire at the state parks. So if we come into times of drought, you'll see that X move to a more advisory or mandatory water restriction. So those are the pretty signs on the side of the road.
And you might also just tell folks, so they might have heard it or gotten a call lately, the reverse 911
Yeah.
version of, you know, what goes on with the water department or any other department, quite
So the
frankly.
water department provides reverse 911 for our department or anyone else in the town that needs it. If there's a construction going on in your area and we expect that we'll be shutting your water off, or dirty water, or anything that may occur, we send out a reverse 911 call that goes out to all the residents in the affected area, just as notification. We'll give you direction as to when your water may be turned on and the appropriate steps to go through at that point.
Okay.
Anything
Thank
else?
you. Thank you.
All right.
You're going to hang around a little bit, I trust, right?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome aboard. Okay, and our new finance director is Andy. We call him Andy, but Andrew Gould. Andy, come on up. Introduce yourself. He's been on board for how many months now?
About 4.5.
Yep. So you're not a rookie anymore. You're
No.
well established now, so.
Now, I got thrown in the pool and I learned
Yeah,
how to
I know.
swim.
That's good.
I've come from the town of Salisbury. I was there 11 years. Previously, I was at Chelsea for 3 years, so I have 14 years' experience. I'm well seasoned in this business. And I have a bachelor's degree from UMass Amherst, a MBA from Suffolk University, and I'm a certified government accountant. And I'm very happy to be here. I've already dug into the financials. We're in good shape. The fiscal year 14 financials audit hadn't been completed. It now has been completed, and they've issued financial statements, and I can assure you that will not happen in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and welcome aboard. Okay,
Chairman?
Yes.
Just bring up one other thing.
sure.
As part of the governor trying to balance the budget, he offered an early retirement incentive, and I just
You're not
wanted-
retiring, are you?
No, too young. But a lot of people at the DOR who certify free cash and also certify the tax rate retired. 11 people did.
Well,
That's a big hit for them. The new person in charge of that, his name's Sean Cronin.
Sean Cronin.
He went to several meetings, and he said, you know, as far as addressing this issue, if you do not have a fall town meeting, do not expect to get your free cash certified until after the first of the year. They're going to be concentrating on the tax recap and getting the tax rate set. That also might be a challenge for them, so I just wanted to throw that out there so everybody is aware of that.
okay, we won't be looking for that certification anytime soon, then.
Well, I might be able to get it in early, but I don't know what kind of priority they're going to give it.
Okay,
So-
thank you. Keep us posted.
I will.
Okay, next, Lincoln Hooper is our Director of Highways and Maintenance, and would like him to give us his report, please. Always informative. Lincoln's team touches just about everything in town except for maybe education, but I think you probably help that too.
We do our best, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to echo something our new finance director just said, in that a lot of our dealings, particularly in the Chapter 90 program, have to do with Mass DOT. And a lot of the people, particularly the head people that we always deal with, Liz LaPointe being one of them, just retired. So a lot of things with dealing with the Commonwealth is taking a lot longer than it should have. And I too am an alum of Suffolk University with my MPA. That wouldn't buy me anything at Dunkin' Donuts these days. I was asked to give a report this evening, and I was on the agenda for just give a report. So I said, called up the administrative staff, and I said, you know, we have 7 different departments. Do you have any suggestions for me? And they had none. When they said, well, just give a report. And I said, well, we have a highway department, a disposal area, facility maintenance, vehicle maintenance, cemeteries, parks, and I'm forgetting one, custodial staff. And I said, I'm going to need a little more direction in that. I finally got a hold of the administrator, and he suggested 3 topics for this evening. Our disposal, long-term disposal area contract, the recent rehabbing of the transfer station, and rubbish pickup at our town-owned beaches and parks. And I was asked to keep this about 5 minutes, I think, Mr. Chair? All right.
You've used 3 already, so.
In conclusion, all right,
We'll make an exception for you. How's that, Link?
you're too kind.
Okay.
You may have noticed in the last couple of years, the disposal area stickers have gone up the last 2 years straight. That is a direct result of our long-term contract, 25-year contract that we had with CMAS or Cavanta that expired this past December 31st. We spent some time, along with all the other Tier 1 communities, the communities on the Cape, that banded together and signed contracts with CMAS 29 years ago, which was a financial mechanism to get that incinerator plant, waste-to-energy plant constructed. They all expired at the same time. Under the leadership of the Cape Cod Commission, we spent quite a bit of time meeting with Cavanta and not really coming to any terms. And I say quite a bit of time. This was a 4 or 5 year project where we would have meetings under the Cape Cod Solid Waste Advisory Committee and Cape Cod Commission. John Giorgio was part of those discussions and helped negotiate. The commission first put out an RFP. It's a request for proposal. We had companies come in, however, none were deemed viable. Cavanta and ABC Disposal did not bid on that RFP. Fast forward another 6 months, we get into some discussions with Cavanta. They threw out a number, and then ABC Disposal, owned by Mike Camara and his family, got into the mix. A direct result of them getting into the mix, the discussion immediately went from in the $70 per ton range down to $65 per ton that Cavanta was charging. Ultimately, the towns fractured and did not stay with the Cape Cod Commission. Cavanta and ABC Disposal came in and gave several presentations to the Board of Selectmen, and ultimately the board decided to sign with ABC Disposal at $55 per ton. To put that in perspective, we were paying $37.51 per ton, minus an MTCP grant, which brought it down to about $35 per ton. That is why our disposal area stickers have gone up. By the Board of Selectmen signing that contract, they've saved Town of Harwich and your taxpayers about $100,000 this year. Now, strike that, I have the right number here. About $60,000 and $645,000 over the 10-year contract. And things have gone, the plant is not built. I knew Mr. Hughes would ask me about that. The plant is not built. I was on the phone with Mr. Camara before this presentation this evening, and I hope to have a better update for you in the future. As soon as I know something, you'll know it. Last year's town meeting, Article 20, overhaul the transfer station, approved $250,000 to overhaul a 27-year-old transfer station. For those that don't know, I started my career back about that same time, 1991, driving trash to CMAS and running the front-end loaders and so forth at the disposal area. I spent quite a bit of time keeping that station up and running, and I mean operating on the systems and repairing it. Staff has done a wonderful job over these 27 years of keeping this thing up and running and only coming down for a day. We're open 7 days a week, and probably none of you have ever showed up at the gate and not have it open. It's a challenging task, and the staff's done a wonderful job at that. This $250,000 replaced everything in the station. By everything, I mean the steel structure, the push pit, the compactor, the power unit, the controls, everything. We shut the whole facility down for 2 days so we could dismantle what was there and put in the main structures, which we couldn't have done with traffic. Then the remainder of that week, Wednesday through Sunday, we opened it up, and residents got like a concierge service where you drive up and we took the trash from people. We actually had requests of people suggesting, say, could you guys keep that service up? As a result of that entire project, which I could not be prouder of the work staff did cooperatively with the contractor, there was a couple of changes. One, you might have noticed a larger drive-up window, which allows more capacity, which was favorable. The power unit itself was moved from down underneath the dungeon to above the operator station. And one not so popular theme was the new wall that's on the residential drop-off center. We had no choice, folks. OSHA requires anytime you have a 5-foot drop, a 42-inch barrier. So I couldn't do anything about it. We didn't want it there, but there was no way you can go and rehab the station and not be compliant with OSHA standards. And the last subject I'll talk about is trash pickup at the beaches. Most people think that's something we only do from Memorial Day through Labor Day, and although I wish that was the case, it's a year-round activity. At our 5 major beaches, we have cans deployed all year round. How we ramp this service up, starting April or so through to Memorial Day, by incrementally deploying more cans. And by cans, when we're fully deployed, that means 37 trash stops and 83 trash cans, including 9 of the big belly solar trash compactors. Should consider buying some more of those, but they're $4,000 trash cans. So without grant money, they're difficult to swallow, because you can do a lot of trash pickup for that kind of money. And we got all but 2 of those on grants, by the way. Once we hit Memorial Day to Labor Day, we start the trash pickup at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's a 1-person show with a new 8-yard trash compactor truck. I had tried for a couple of years to get one, was shot down. The new administrator came in and had no problem, said that's a good idea. Other surrounding towns have been doing that for a while. That trash compactor really allowed us to go from a 2-person operation to a 1, increasing our efficiency. And there's no wind-blown litter. We used to put it in the back of 1-ton trucks, and no matter how well you tarp it, there's wind-blown litter. And it's worked out wonderfully, that truck. We do that morning run, which hits all the stops, and takes 4 to 5 hours. Then in the afternoon, we send another seasonal employee out to do an afternoon run at our 5 major beaches. And that's pretty much how our trash operation works. And then we start, after Labor Day through Columbus Day, we start incrementally taking some trash cans in and then keep them deployed at some of the parks and the major beaches throughout the remainder of the winter. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm not going to get the questions yet, but I would like you to take one other topic just briefly, and that is street sweeper. Just the schedule that it's on, and, you know, people ask questions, why are we sweeping streets and that type of thing.
You know, typically, that's the #1 service call that we receive is, when is my street going to get swept? People don't realize how big Harwich really is. We have 142 miles of public roads, 482 public roads, another 355 privates, of which probably 250 or more receive service. And if we do snow and ice service, we're obligated to do street sweeping. This year, however, we transitioned, as most of the communities around us have, and MassDOT has been doing for a while, to primarily straight salt on the roads. And as a result of that, the street sweeping has gone remarkably well, and there hasn't been a lot of calls for that. Eventually, it shows up in other ways, in doing less basin cleaning and so forth. Street sweeping, we break the town up into 13 sectors. We hit each sector for a week, which includes main roads as the demarcation lines, and then all the roads off of those. What they don't get in the first week, once they finish the 13-week process, they go back and get any leftovers. They usually deploy 2 street sweepers. This year, we had 2 deployed, a mechanical and a vacuum sweeper. And we've pretty much contracted the mechanical sweeper because we've got all the heavy spots and so forth. And we needed extra labor helping us with brushing, which has been challenging.
Okay, thank you. You're going to hang around for questions later, right? Yes.
Love
Please.
to.
I know you would. Thank you. Okay, John Randone is our harbor master, and look forward to his report. John, here he comes, right out of the water.
Good evening.
Good evening.
John Randone, Harbor Master for the town of Harwich here. Just a quick update. From an operational perspective, it's been a busy summer so far, a busy season. We've had about 40 maritime assistance cases to date, dealing with boat tows, dewatering, medical, groundings, etc. Most significant was a boat fire that we had recently where our patrol boat operators pulled off the single operator off his burning boat, got him right into Harwich Fire to get medical care, and then went back out there with our fire pump and our that was new to our patrol boat there, put the fire out, and a life saved. So I mean, it was a great case. It's been a busy summer from that perspective. Speaking of which, as of July 1, we have a new hire. We have a deputy harbor master that is a new full-time position, which has been a tremendous help. His name's Bill Neeser. He was a part-time staff for the year prior, and he comes with a whole lot of boating experience. He's a seasoned mariner with public safety expertise, so it's been a big help. Many of you know we recently completed the Witchmere Pier replacement project. The whole pier was replaced along with the adjacent bulkheads that were failing, and so it was a $1.4 million project, 75% of which was paid for through a state Seaport Advisory Council grant, and it was built essentially on the same footprint as the existing one, or the old one. Robert Auer was the construction contractor. Bourne Engineering was the engineering contractor. So great new, great new facility, all new drainage, plumbing, electrical, lighting went along with that. So that was a big project. We've had several dredge projects completed. This winter we did 2 small areas in Saquatucket Basin that got dredged. And recently we just dredged Witchmere Channel and Allen Harbor Channel. Some upcoming projects, Allen Harbor Landing. As many of you may know, last year we replaced the main bulkhead over at Allen Harbor. That was phase one of a two-phase project. This coming fall, we hope to regrade and repave the parking lot over at Allen Harbor. It will be done with a pervious pavement system to address stormwater runoff issues. And we'll also build a retaining system on the south end of that parking lot as well. And also, we'll be replacing that bathroom with a new concrete bathroom that you see at some of our facilities, Pleasant Street Beach and the new one over at Long Pond. So, and that will also have a new tight tank with that. That entire project, again, was part of a state grant program, public access grant through the Department of Fish and Game. They're paying 62% of that total project cost. So again, we'll have Allen Harbor and Witchmere now pretty much totally redone at the end of the year, which is huge. Also on the horizon, we just went out for a request for proposal for the engineering design to replace all the docks at Saquatucket Marina. That request for proposal has been out, and the bid should be in by Thursday, so we'll kind of look at what bids we received and pick an engineering firm to come up with the engineering plans to replace the docks. Along with that, replacing the docks, the piles, all the services, and we're bringing the marina into compliance with our American with Disabilities Act, ADA compliance. So looking forward to that with the follow-on year, hopefully starting construction. And then, as many of you know, we just recently purchased the Downey property, and that's a 2.2 acre lot that is adjacent to Saquatucket Harbor. I am a member of a Saquatucket Development Committee that is looking at different options for utilizing the Downey property and working with our existing footprint over at Saquatucket to expand and support harbor operations, to look at some of the conservation areas that are there and take measures to protect those. And so we're kind of early into this, but our goal is to have a site plan proposal to bring in front of the citizens on what we're going to do with that property. So any questions, or that's?
We'll get to your questions when we get to everybody else's in a bit, but let me just add to that one thing, and that is that this board asked the state highway department, if you will, several months ago to consider adding sidewalk between Saquatucket Harbor and back into Harwich Port to make that connection. And we have their assurance through a letter, if you will, that the next time they do some repaving, if you will, on that road, which is 28,
Right.
That they will address sidewalks at that point in time, which would be a great addition, I think.
It'd be huge. Yes,
To
sir.
allow you, just look at people that are, walking and they're standing off in the dirt, walking in the road, whatever. But I think it'd be a very good addition at that point. Now, it may happen in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, who knows, but the state is committed to it, so.
Great.
Thank you, John.
Sir.
Thank you. Okay, our Director of Recreation, Eric Beebe. There he is, tallest guy in the room. We can't miss him or lose him. So Eric, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
Eric Beebe, Recreation Director. I'll give you a quick update on our summer so far. As far as beaches go, we're once again very, very busy. Red River, Bank Street, everywhere really, but Red River, Bank Street are filling up by 9:30, 10 in the morning some days. All the other beaches are filling this year. Even Earl Road with our back lot is filling. So people are making the most of the beaches and the nice weather we've been having. We have a great staff again this year. There's a widespread lifeguard shortage, statewide pretty much. Luckily, we have our full 28 lifeguards this year. We're looking forward, though, to see what we could do to keep it that way in the future if the shortage continues. We're offering Guard Start classes for 11 to 14-year-olds, get them interested about lifeguarding as something they could do as a summer job. 15 and up, we offer lifeguard training classes, which we try to keep the fee as reasonable as possible. We do it all in-house. Once they pass the class, we even have them come on the beaches and shadow lifeguards. And then the following year, the hope is that we'd have guards coming right in to kind of fill those empty spaces. So that's been a good program so far, so we're going to hope that it continues to help us in the future. As far as revenues go, daily pass sales are on pace for 25 to 30% more than last year. Parking tickets, as of today, I believe we've written about 550 of them. So there's that's the most we've ever written. We still got a month left. So they're out there. We have 2 officers this year, but I'll hit that in the new stuff. As always, we'd like to thank the Highway Department for making the beaches look great. I mean, once again, they look good, and we wouldn't have the crowds we have and the success we have with revenue if they didn't look the way they did. A couple of new things this year that I wanted to hit on. First, the parking officers. Like I said, this is the 7th year we've had parking officers. We've always had one 30-hour-a-week parking officer. We now have an additional part-time officer, which allows us to have 2 on the weekends and on real busy beach days. And it's really made a difference. You know, they could each start at a different end of the town and really get coverage of all the beaches, including the small ones, that sometimes would get neglected if a parking officer is spending half his day at Red River helping to direct traffic or walking the lot to write tickets. It's harder to get to the lots like Atlantic Ave or Brooks Road, but this year they're really being able to get everywhere, and that's why we've written so many tickets. Also, we moved 2 lifeguards now to Cahoon's Beach, which hasn't been guarded in years and years and years. They moved from Sand Pond to Cahoon's, and the reason we did that is because we had recently, last year, moved our swim lessons from Sand Pond to Long Pond, and we noticed that Cahoon's was getting very large crowds and family-oriented crowds with young children. So for the safety of the town as a whole, we thought that would be a great place to have our guards. We still do our rounds of Sand Pond, frequent rounds every day, me along with our beach supervisors. The other changes, just minor things. We've updated some of the restrooms, painting, some new appliances inside, anything to make it more accessible for the public. As far as summer programming, we're doing really well with that too. We're going to probably hit around 1,000 youth this year that are in our programs. We try to expand every year to offer things that we haven't had in the past. One example this year is we started an archery class, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go, and we ended up having 2 full classes. So it's something we're going to continue to pursue in the future. It was something different that we never had before, something kids seem to be interested in. So I think we have 4 or 5 new programs this summer. Our playground, our camp is full. We have 4 2-week sessions. Every session was full this year, full being 90 to 100 kids per session. So we're filled up as far as that goes, which keeps us busy. We also have all of our normal adult programs running. The one I really wanted to hit on was pickleball. Pickleball, I hit on it every year, but especially this year, we have well over 100 people playing between the community center times, the middle school times, and the new courts over at Brooks Park. They play 3-4 days a week. They also have a tournament coming up in September that we're expecting well over 100 people for that from all over. And that was made possible by the project that we just finished at Brooks Park, which was our phase 2 of our expansion. That included 2 new multi-use courts, which double as tennis and pickleball. They're lined for both. Those have been used every single day by tennis lessons, by pickleball, by just people dropping by and playing. We've even had people coming in off the bike trail, seeing people playing pickleball and really want to know what that is. So we may have to rent out paddles soon or something. So that's the project we just finished up. That also included the complete refurbishment of the basketball court there, which is also being used a lot more than it was before. And then in the future, to build on that, we're looking to move into phase 3 of the project. We're looking to apply through the CPC this year for things like additional parking down there, because it is filling up with more amenities. There's more people going down there. An additional half basketball court, so we could run more summer leagues, night leagues, things like that. Picnic and pavilion areas, so we could book family reunions, whatever people want to do, or if they just want to come off the bike trail and just hang out at the picnic tables. So we have that coming up. We also are going to be applying for funding for replacing the fencing at White House Field. All the fencing needs to be replaced. It's been, I think, close to 20 years now, and it's a safety issue now, so we're going to be looking for funding for that as well. And I believe that's everything we have on the docket, unless there's some questions from you guys.
Okay, Eric, I'd just say that my observation is I think it's well known that you had the largest increase in staff in the summertime,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
summer employees.
Yep.
And I just want to say that my experience and what people relate to me is that their interaction with your staff, whether it's on the beach, you know, with a lifeguard or someone giving instructions for swimming, or you mentioned archery and all those things, is just extremely positive. So whatever you're doing with these individuals that come on board in the summertime to supplement, you know, your full-time staff, if you will, is working really well. And everything I hear from, you know, parents and whatnot that have kids in the program, everybody speaks well about it. So, you know, please pass it on to your staff.
Will do, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get to questions later, but
Thank you.
hang around. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to get a wastewater status report from David Young, who's our consultant from CDM Smith. If you haven't followed wastewater recently, it's in the next 30 or 40 years in this town certainly is going to be the probably the most expensive project, if you will, we ever undertake, and will consume a lot of time and attention. It's all related to improving and maintaining the quality of our water system, if you will. We are a resort community, if you will, a vacation community, and maintaining the health of our waterways is just so important to keep attracting folks to Harwich. So we've asked David to make a quick presentation. He's got a huge volume of slides here that we drag out periodically and try to educate people, but the intent is to just give you an idea of what's going on with wastewater. All this information is available on our website, if you will, and if you want to dig deeper, you're certainly welcome to do that. So, David?
Mr. Chairman, if I may introduce David as the chairman of the
Oh, sure.
wastewater.
Peter DeBacar.
I'm sorry, I was going to be on vacation, but I still happen to be here, so I thought I'd at least make my presence known that I do exist. I noticed that all my people before me were directors and heavy hitters in the town. I'm the chairman of a board, of a committee rather, but we have indeed, as you mentioned, one of the largest programs that the town is going to see in the upcoming years. And as you mentioned, there is so much information about this program that we couldn't possibly present it here tonight. And I invite people to go to the town website under the WIC Wastewater Implementation Committee heading, where all our meeting minutes and agendas are posted, and many of the documents that we're going to talk about. Again, David Young is an integral part of the committee, our technical consultant, in addition to additional board members, and some of whom are here. And we are relying on David's expertise to keep us honest and to tell us precisely, technically, what to do. And I think it's important from the audience to realize that what CDM Smith, through David Young with us, they are the technical consultants, the political questions that need to be dictated rest with the Town of Harwich Board of Selectmen, of course. So David is going to show us a number of slides. We have quite a large number of slides. We will emphasize the ones that we think are really important, and we will sort of skip by the ones that are sort of at a lower level importance. But for those of you who haven't seen it, it might be interesting. With your permission, if I might ask one question, since this is a meeting for the non-resident people in town, would you mind if we were to ask how many people here tonight are non-residents? Is that appropriate?
You get a show of hands. There you go.
All right, that's yeah, exactly, that's what I meant. And that's good to know, because we really make an effort to reach as broad a base in the discussion of all topics, and in this case, this one as well. Thank you.
Well, with that, it's a pleasure to be here, and I will do my best to summarize the past 8 years in the next 5 to 8 minutes. This is the committee that you just heard the chairman, Peter DeBarker. It's very well representative, cross-section of town staff and several volunteers who have been involved for a long time. The presentation tonight is geared towards answering the first three questions there. Why is Harwich studying this wastewater, or actually water resources, because we do more than just wastewater? What is the proposed solution that the town has developed, and how do they plan to pay for it? We can answer questions, comments later. This is a main reason for why the town is studying the wastewater issue. Just look at the color scheme. Top, 1951, bottom, roughly 50 years later. The colors in yellow and red show that it's been developed. So you can see there's been a significant change, over 400% population increase, but even more importantly, probably more development. This shows what a watershed is. What that means is if the green color, known as the Herring River watershed, if you live in that, you actually, a drop of water on your property, if you lived up here, flows through the groundwater table, comes down through the Herring River, and exits into Nantucket Sound right here. So if you live up here, the groundwater discharges there. If you're in the Saquotucket Harbor, you're up here, it discharges right here. If you're in Witchmere Harbor, it discharges right there. It's an important concept to understand as we go through this process. The state has been involved for many years working with the UMass Dartmouth, known as School for Marine Science Technology, SMAS, several other agencies, to do studies to evaluate the health of those watersheds that we just showed you. The town is doing its own study, though, more comprehensive, and addressing the nitrogen from those that Mass Estuaries Project study. But we also looked at the pond, freshwater pond quality, drinking water quality, Title V issues, meaning your on-site septic systems, as well as where the town would like to encourage economic development. This is what we would strive for. This is what we all moved to the Cape for. This is what we want, a healthy environment. Whether it's nitrogen or phosphorus, whether you're in saltwater or freshwater here, we want to make sure that we don't have excessive algae in the water column so the light can penetrate and create a healthy environment down below at the surface, whether it's organisms, shellfish in the sediment, or healthy grasses, creating a healthy environment, producing oxygen. This is what we don't want. When we get too much of a nutrient impact in that water, we get excessive algae growth, which creates an unhealthy environment. We lose the organisms in the sediment. We end up with low oxygen levels, and it's just an unsightly environment. As I said, we're also looking at the water quality. You heard your new water superintendent talk about the excellent water quality and pumping rates. Well, the areas in yellow show actually where the majority of your water goes into your public water system. The areas in sort of the purplish pink color show the very conservative areas, but the yellow is where the day-to-day water comes from. Where are the nutrients coming from that are impacting your saltwater and freshwater? Well, the saltwater is impacted by nitrogen, and the freshwater is impacted by phosphorus. And in most instances, this pie chart is for nitrogen, but it'd be very similar for phosphorus. Over 85% is coming from wastewater. Where's the wastewater coming from? It's coming from what you have here on the Cape, vast majority of you anyway, is an on-site septic system known as a state Title V system. Those systems were designed to remove sediment, solids, bacteria, pathogens. It's absorbed and filtered out in the soils. However, the nitrogen that's also in those waste products flows directly down into the groundwater table, comes into this leaching field, flows down the groundwater table, and surfaces in the nearest water body. So when we look at the results of that Massachusetts Estuaries Project report, and we look at where earlier I pointed to the Herring River, and if you lived up here in Herring River, as I indicated, your on-site septic system would flow down into the groundwater table, surface in the Herring River, find its way down out into Nantucket Sound. Well, the result is we have to remove about 58% of the nitrogen from that septic systems, 58% in Saquatucket Harbor, over 65% of the nitrogen coming from on-site septic systems up in Pleasant Bay, and up to 100% in Witchmere Harbor. So you can see there's fairly high percent nitrogen removal required in order to keep those saltwater estuaries in a healthy condition. The state, or EPA, working with the State Department of Environmental Protection, is now in the process of actually issuing what they refer to as total maximum daily loads. That's the amount of nutrients that can go into those estuaries. In this case, the nitrogen levels. You actually have a public hearing coming up for your watersheds, being the Herring River watershed and Allen, Witchmere, and Saquatucket watersheds here in this building on August 26th. The state has actually just started issuing these again now that the Cape Cod Commission has completed its 208 water quality. 208 just refers to the section of the Federal Clean Water Act. But that starts the process towards the town having to come up with a schedule and plan to meet the total maximum daily loads. I also indicated we've been looking at your freshwater pond quality. You have a lot of water quality data for some ponds don't. So that's on the schedule to do those in coming years. But of some of the ponds that we do have data for, and we did a special study for Hinckley's Pond, located up here. Previously, you've done work on Long Pond. You treated that with alum. To show you those two, if you focus on those two ponds right there, you can see clearly the difference in the ponds. This is Long Pond where you had treated it previously. This is Hinckley's Pond a couple years ago where it hasn't been treated but does need to be treated because it has excessive phosphorus levels in it right now. So how do we remove that, get into the solution development? Well, this gives you a little indication of what percent removals do we need for nitrogen. As I indicated, you're looking at 58 to up to 100% nitrogen removal from septic systems. Well, if you want to remove a high percent nitrogen, you start to tell you what systems you're going to look at. As you can see, on a Title V system, as I said, wasn't really designed to remove nitrogen, so it's less than 20%. You can get into some more sophisticated ones, innovative alternative they're referred to. They can get you into the 40 plus or minus. But the larger the system you have, the more control and better process control you can have to remove higher nitrogen levels. The committee looked at multiple options, these 8 options, and there were various options within these that were evaluated in detail. There's what's known as a comprehensive wastewater management plan that is online on the town's website. It's about a 3-inch thick document. This was screened down to 3 options. Since that time, the Cape Cod Commission has also come out, as I indicated, with that 208 study. They focused on on-site systems up through regional systems. This is being incorporated into the town's plan as well. But we had already looked at some of those options prior to the 208 plan coming out, and you'll hear a little bit later in more detail on this project, which is the Muddy Creek project, where you're increasing the width of the opening to increase flushing so that you don't build up nitrogen and residence time in that upper levels of Muddy Creek. So that reduces the amount of nitrogen you need to remove in the watershed, as well as another project that the town has been funding and we're working with them on, which is down off of Bank Street, the Cold Brook Bogs, former cranberry bogs, owned by the Harwich Conservation Trust. We're doing the project in concert with them. But the goal is to try to increase residence time here so that, again, we can naturally remove additional nitrogen without having to put more pipes in the ground or other treatment systems. Ultimately, this is the status of the town's overall plan. I realize for someone looking at this for the first time, it's a little difficult. There are boards here in Town Hall, in the town's libraries, though, that hopefully you'll take the time to go look at them. There also, I should have mentioned, there's a pamphlet up back that was mailed to all the water users or water accounts in town. Please make sure you take a copy of that. It also has on the back of it the websites that the town has this information posted on. But this shows a 8-phase plan over a 40-year period, and it shows the sequencing currently proposed with the East Harwich area recommended for the first 3 phases. First 2 phases being sewering this area and then bringing it to the Chatham treatment plant. So it would be a intermunicipal agreement with Chatham. And then, so there's no new treatment plant built in Harwich for roughly 15 years out. The next 5 phases would start with building a treatment plant next to the DPW, former town landfill site, and then these areas would be picked up and proposed for sewering. As I said, the East Harwich area was focused on for multiple reasons. It helps protect some of the water supply wells that you have up, drinking water supply wells. It's also an area anticipated for planned commercial development, and it does allow you to take advantage of a regional agreement with Chatham. Then we got into how do we pay for this program? Well, the Wastewater Implementation Committee, known as the WIC, wanted to look at trying to keep the model simple, look at focusing on those first 3 phases to get the program rolling, realizing that methods would change along the way. Some of their tenets that they wanted to make sure were put forth were that everyone in town contributes nitrogen to the problem, so everyone should be part of the solution. Also, they'd like to see dedicated funding sources to help stabilize the cost as the program moves forward. And again, everyone in town contributes to that. So the 3 programs, after looking at a whole host of options that are out there, reference what's known as an infrastructure investment fund that was passed by the Massachusetts State Legislature last July, a year ago, July. I've forgotten, we're already into August. And so that's a dedicated fund. It's similar to your Community Preservation Act program. Similarly, you would use townwide property tax to help pay for it, and also a sewer enterprise account. The Board of Selectmen took that recommendation and has since endorsed it. However, there's no specific breakdown of how much goes on to each of those 3 components at this time. The good news is it's an expensive program, but you've already survived implementation of a similar program. Oftentimes people had come up and said, how are we ever going to afford this? Well, you've already done it. The Harwich Water Department is summarized here on this slide. You have over 180 miles of pipes, 5 pumping stations. I think this probably needs to be updated because you have treatment facilities now, not 1 treatment plant, and on and on. When we added up the accounting from the Harwich Water Department, that adds up to over $215 up to $255 million. You use several different methods to pay for that program over the 40 to 50 years that that system was built upon. So that's the good news. In summary, this is a very complex process. As I said, it's been ongoing for 8 years, tremendous amount of information developed, but it's not done. It's a living document, and it will always be a process where you will be looking at, all right, is there another option out there that can help us either improve what we're trying to do or do it more efficiently, more cost-effectively. However, everyone in the town contributes to the problem, so again, everybody should be part of the solution because you will all benefit from the improved water quality. This is a quote out of the Cape Cod Commission's, again, 208 plan, that just, doing nothing is economically devastating to the Cape, Cape being a very tourist community. So with that, take questions or comments, or I guess you're holding
Hey,
them
Dave,
to
would
the
you
end.
just give us a status on where we are in getting the, through the regulatory process on
Sure.
the comprehensive wastewater management plan?
Now that we have, the Board of Selectmen has endorsed a, what we refer to as a cost recovery model that we showed those 3 components. We're in the process of updating some sections of the comprehensive wastewater management plan. We're putting the cost recovery program in that plan now. incorporating some components from the 208 plan. And we anticipate refiling with the state Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act office, known as MEPA, and with the Cape Cod Commission. The draft plan was filed with those same agencies back in 2013. We have draft comments from them. They are being addressed in this refiling. And so your final plan will be refiled this fall, probably early October. And then you will get comments back from them. If there are any additional comments, hopefully you'll get what's known as a MEPA certificate. And then so it's a joint review right now with the state and the Cape Cod Commission. Once the state issues that certificate, then it goes on forward with the Cape Cod Commission through the development of regional impact, and that would be another probably 3 to 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to talk about the financial status of the town. Chris, are you going to do this, or?
Yeah, actually, I just need the, we're going to use that laptop.
You got a presentation on here?
Mr. Chairman, while they're setting up, my name is Christopher Clark. I'm the town administrator here in the community. I've been in public administration for 25 years. Actually, this is my 25th year. I've been with the town of Harwich for about 18 months, a little over 18 months. It's nice to see so many folks get up and say that they're Suffolk alums, because, I realize that I went to Suffolk a lot of years ago at this stage. But also one of the other things that I would like to note is, I think the quality of the people that have done the presentations before, I think speak very highly to this. Is a very good organization. It was in some ways a trying year too, because we had a fair amount of turnover. We had our treasurer collector left, and then our finance director retired. So we definitely had some challenges. Actually, I filled in as the water superintendent for, I'll say, an extended period, which I enjoyed, but that definitely took time away from my other duties and responsibilities. The two things that I'm going to cover this evening is the Muddy Creek Restoration Project. It actually was in the materials, that's why we're digging it up, so it is all online. And what I wanted to do was just to walk people through. You saw David's presentation, which was kind of outlining the problem, where we are, and where we're going. And there's a lot of nuts and bolts to how do we actually accomplish these things. So one of the elements that we're out to accomplish is the Muddy Creek Restoration Project. I think the first day I started was this project was in the already well underway, and I jumped right in. So this one is imminent, and I think it's very positive in terms of the news. The one thing to note about the Muddy Creek Restoration Project is it is a dual project. We are working in partnership with Chatham and Harwich. The cost is being split 50-50, and the reason for that is because this bridge is actually over Muddy Creek, which is the boundary line between the two towns. So it's been a good project, but as you can imagine, not only do you deal with the regulators, but you have two towns that you also have to make sure that we work in a cooperative manner. Just in terms of the location, and one of the things that I want to kind of highlight here, as you can see, Muddy Creek is this section right here. You can see that the roadways are a long way. It's a long way around. So this is the primary means along Route 28 to get over. So we have taken into account certain elements. The construction will be done off-season, so the construction is planned to be done during December through, I think it's April or May, that we hope to have it completed. So we'll get to that. But you can see that there's a long way around in order to get there. I want to get into some of the components. So the existing conditions, it's primarily a freshwater, so all that material comes down and then comes out through the existing culverts. These are the existing culverts, very, very small, done a long time ago, pretty inefficient for the turnover of water. And I think because we hold back the fresh water for so long, that's creating some of the issues that David had highlighted about the poor water quality, the high levels of nitrogen, bacteria. And in terms of the wetland impacts, we have had shellfish closures because of the high levels of bacteria and limits to the fish passage as they try to work their way through. So the site as it exists now is definitely a problem. In terms of restoration, how long has the town been looking at it and where are we? There's been several studies that have been done, and you can kind of see this from 2003. It kind of moved up in the priority list 2008. The hydrodynamic model, how the flow of water going to occur when we take the culvert out and put the bridge in, water quality. I think the folks up there, Pleasant Bay Alliance, has been doing studies in water quality testing for over a decade, so there's a lot of good information that exists. But in 2013, they kind of got to a design phase where we could get into the construction elements. So why do this? What are some of the potential benefits we anticipate through this? It will be transitioning kind of a freshwater wetlands into a saltwater. We anticipate about 56 acres of wetlands will be restored. Some of the long-term restoration benefits, the increase in salinity and tidal range, reduction of invasive stands, the expansion of the tidal mudflats in the low marsh communities, the new and expanded brackish, and then the improved habitat overall. Some of the other ones, by having the larger channel, you now, instead of having the water kind of back up and then flow out through the culvert, you'll get the flow of the tidal flow by having the larger channel opening. That will allow for some of the fish species to be able to go in and out, and that tidal exchange will help with the water quality. And we do anticipate that a sandy bottom will help to promote additional shellfish and hopefully not lead to as many closures as we've had. In terms of the project design, it's kind of funny that it's a kind of a history lesson. Originally, when it was constructed as a bridge. And now in 2015, we're going back to a bridge. So maybe they had it right back in the, I don't know when the bridge was originally constructed, 1800s. So you can kind of see how that looked back in the day. And what we asked them to do, our consultants, it's actually CDR is the company. And in terms of this, they did this is looking at it from the Pleasant Bay side. So you could see earlier, we saw the constricted culvert. Now you see the span, the bridge span. This is going to be kind of a rock and placement. You have to protect the abutments to make sure that the bridge will stay. So the state has insisted that we make sure that we have the abutments. We will be putting vegetation over that, so you won't have the stone look. It will have more of a natural look. We have gone through the conservation commissions of both Harwich and Chatham, and they've asked for a lot of those elements to be put in, rightfully so. The other view is the south view. The south view is looking at it from Muddy Creek, so here's what it would look like if you were coming down. Before, you wouldn't be able to kayak. You probably would be able to kayak once this is in, so it will have more of an opening for folks. In terms of the project milestones, and this is kind of what I wanted to focus on a little bit, we have received the environmental permitting, so that is complete. We are actually out on the street now with the bid. So we anticipate, actually it's this Thursday, that we'll have bids come in. We did have a very good turnout. We had about 9 firms come out and look at the project. So anytime you have a good level of competition, we hope that we'll get a good price and a good firm. So we hope to have the construction start in September. Most likely the road closures to traffic won't commence until December. And then our target is to be open before Memorial Day, so to get in there by May. I think that is very doable. We'll have to see what the contractor has in terms of the time schedule and what they can accomplish. One of the other things I just wanted to show also in this is just, as I alluded to earlier, you can see this is a section that's we'll have to actually close the road because they are taking out such a large amount of area. So we will have kind of long detours. Again, we're trying to target those detours in the months in which there's not as much traffic. But you can see that because Muddy Creek comes in so far, there are going to be some long detours. I know the police department, we've reached out to some of the businesses in the area to kind of let them know that this is going on. We probably will create a couple of different alternate routes for vehicles, and we'll have one that's kind of dedicated for truck traffic. So the idea is to try to get that information out. Because the road closures aren't anticipated until December, we're hoping to get that out really probably in September, October, to start really notifying people. So that's the project. The next area that I wanted to cover, and actually at the town meeting, we presented kind of the finances of the town. So, you know, where does the tax dollars, when we receive it, where do they get broken up, where do they go in terms of this? You can see a very large commitment of funds goes towards education. The Monomoy Regional School District accounts for about 40%. As folks I'm sure are aware, not only does it cover Harwich, but it also covers Chatham. The town of Harwich does pay the majority of the cost because we have the majority of students in the system. The other education related is Cape Cod Tech High School. That's about 3%. So you can see about 43% of those areas are related to education. You had the introduction of the police chief. I grouped public safety. We have I know the fire chief in the room as well. So when you take the fire and police combined, they're about 15% of our operating budget. And I think they both do an outstanding job, and there's definitely a lot of need for the services. In terms of the highway department, you had Mr. Hooper had done a presentation earlier. About 7% of the budget goes towards highway-related functions. In the yellow square, we have library and the golf departments, about 4%. And then town operating budget, which basically covers everybody in town hall, is another big area. That's 11%. We have a contributory retirement system, so we contribute to the Barnstable County Retirement. That's 4%. Debt service is 6%. And one real area of concern, I mean, not just for us as a business, but I think all businesses, the impact of health insurance. Health insurance really has two drivers. One is your experience. How is your group doing? If you have a healthy group, then your experience is better and you have a better way to control costs. If your group is not as healthy and you have higher levels, that's going to drive your costs. And then regulation. Regulation has been expensive, and we do anticipate that, at least from what I'm hearing at this point, it will continue to be even more expensive. So health insurance is a significant challenge to us as a community, as well as obviously all Mass communities, and well as communities throughout the United States. Just to that end, I have volunteered very few times. I try to volunteer for things, but I have gone on to our Cape Cod Municipal Health Group to be part of that steering committee to try to understand the issues at the ground floor and get a good sense for that. So we are being very proactive in our approach to how we deal with the health insurance and the budget-related issues. So then the other part of the coin, okay, if that's where we spend the money, where does the money come from? As I'm sure folks probably are not surprised at all, the vast majority of money comes from property tax. So we are a suburban community, residential community, so you see a large amount of our tax levy comes from property tax. The other area that you see the larger pie, probably the second largest on there, is the local receipts. That's motor vehicle excise, ambulance, some of the larger fees that we have, and that's about 18%. So overall, I think the finance director made a good comment that I think we are financially sound. I think that he has done an outstanding job of kind of getting us up to date. Obviously, there's some challenges with the Commonwealth kind of cutting back on services, so that will be a challenge this year. But we do have a 5-year plan that has been put into place, and we have tried to adhere to some of the principles of Standard & Poor's in the way we do budgeting. And we're actually in the early stages of kind of closing out the last budget year and preparing for FY16, so we'll be working on that in the next several months. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, so now we get to the question and comment section of the meeting. I would ask if you have a question or a comment you'd like to make to stand at the podium, if you would, and would you identify yourself and where you live, not by where you live, I mean in the town, just so we can get a sense of where people are. So if anybody has any questions or comments, just step up to the podium. We'll take you as you line up or whatever.
My name's Ed Costello, 75 Shore Road, West Harwich. And I'd like to talk about Gray Neck Road Beach. Nothing ever had to be done to Gray Neck Road Beach until we put in the Nantucket cable. And it was originally scheduled to go under Earl Road Beach, and then the town thought better of putting it under a public beach, and they wanted to come off of private property. So, they put it on 75 Shore Road. I'm 79 Shore Road. When they did that, the town approved and oversaw the construction of a wall which went out onto the beach and was a complete disaster for the beach and the community. Now, I dropped some papers into everybody's box today, and I don't know whether you got them or not. But I showed you what the beach used to look like when it never needed anything from the town. I showed you what the town did with the wall, and that was done with the wall over the winter time, and everybody came down in the springtime, and everybody's jaw just dropped. What happened to our beach? Well, the wall was poorly constructed, so that now, it's not that the wall was poorly constructed, but the design of it is, you tie in a seawall with a groin. That creates some type of a scouring situation where you get a strong southwest wind, which is the prevailing wind, and we had a lot of southwest winds in the past 2 weeks, 17, 18, 20 miles an hour. You just watch the beach disappear, okay? And it's all because of the way the wall was constructed, and you don't get the normal flowing of sand and whatever else is on the beach from the west to the east. Now, you also had some pictures of high tide at that beach, which is non-existent. Low tide at the beach, you always get a lot of seaweed collecting when you get erosion like this, and you have a beach which is essentially useless to the community. It's advertised as a public beach. It's one of the public beaches in Chatham, and it's hardly used at all in the shape it's in. Now, the town has a dredging policy, and if I can read, projects funded by town meeting through its dredging articles and alternative sources will first be used to replenish public beaches or placed on private lands to protect the public good so as to sustain the public beach through literal drift of material or wind-carried sand. First obligation of the town is to public beaches. That's the town policy. Secondly, all town-owned public beaches will be the primary deposition site of dredged material from a town-financed dredge project. All public beaches. Any excess material not needed on a public beach may be procured by request from the town by a private homeowner or beach association at the town's cost through the public bidding process. Supposed to restore the public beaches first. When you have leftover sand, you can put it up for sale to private homeowners or beach associations so that they can use it. Now, we had to, when this was initially done, interestingly enough, there was a thing here for Gray Neck Road. The town of Harwich is planning to dredge, and this is long ago, but it's just, this is what was presented to us. The town of Harwich is planning to dredge the entrance channel to Allen Harbor and use the resulting dredge spoils to nourish the public beach at Gray Neck Road. Your property is currently included in the proposed area of beach nourishment. The state requires that any private property owner who receives beach nourishment sign the enclosed release of land damage and public access easement. The easement allows the public to pass on foot over the nourished area. It is similar to the rights of passage which already exist in tidelands. It does not allow the public to use the beach for picnicking, spreading blankets, and chairs. Now, the way that this has worked on Gray Neck Road is if you replenish the beach. I am a landowner on the east side of the beach. I have a private beach. I restrict nobody from using that private beach. So you have the public beach and you have the beach which is out in front of my house. And what happens is that all of the neighbors come down, All the kids come down, everybody's playing in the water, kids are yelling and having fun. And the more kids there, the happier I am, because I love to see kids on the beach. So you get the use of not only the public beach, but you get the use of my beach. Now, the question then becomes one of, okay, what is happening? Are we adhering to this town policy of first replenishing public beaches, or do we sell sand at the expense of public beaches which need nourishment? Now, you got the pictures of this, and of what the beach looks like now, what it once was, and what it looks like when it's restored. There's a couple of additional items, and one is you've got the history of the cable. Nothing was necessary before that. Everybody can use the private beach. The other big possible problem to the town is people go down there at low tide and they can get down the steps. They walk along and they go someplace on the beach. They come back and they're trapped at high tide. They can't get up those steps. So what do? You've got people climbing over rocks, waiting for some kid to slip and break his head open. Okay, so you have a liability problem there too. So my message is, I think that Gray Neck Road is getting shortchanged. And a lot of nice people there who want to use the beach. Families come down. There's never any trouble. Police are never called. There's nothing left on the beach. Everybody cleans the beach, and we have no beach. And it all started with the Nantucket cable and how the town built the wall. That's my message.
Okay, thanks, and thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I will say, I don't think any of us got the information yet. You probably.
It was in everybody's mailbox at
Well, that's
about
fine.
2 o'clock this afternoon.
Well, that's fine. We don't live by our mailboxes, but I'm sure we'll
Well,
pick
you
it up
can-
in the next
you-
couple of
You
days.
can look at it tomorrow if you have a chance.
We will. We will.
Okay.
Are
Thank
you
you.
around all summer, sir? Do you typically
am.
around?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can call me anytime.
So if we have, and I don't know, John, if you have any you want to add to this or any information, but I'd certainly suggest that we look into it and, you know, find out what's going on there.
Yes, sir. The last time we nourished Gray Neck, according to my records, was in 2012. And so certainly it is due. I can tell you that 2 projects that we did this year, unfortunately, were done way late in the year, much later than we ever have done it before. We were in the middle of the summer because the county dredge got delayed because of the extreme winter that we had. They got stuck in Mill Creek doing a job, and everything got pushed, and therefore they showed up late in Harwich, in the middle of July, in the middle of the season. And therefore, I made some decisions that we had to get the dredging done because our channels were closing up. And I had the sand put, so we didn't run a bunch of pipeline across beaches, public beaches that, could cause more disruption than we were already having. So in Witchmere, I put it right there in the outer harbor, Witchmere Pines. And then when we did Allen Harbor, again, I put it on our public beach of Wauwatasi, tried to load that up, knowing that the flow of sand goes west to east, and then we also put some on the Windermere Association Beach, which was right next to it. We didn't have time to be changing pipeline and running it down beaches. So, I mean, that was a decision mainly because the dredge was so late into the season. I was trying to limit the disruption to the public. We do focus on the public beaches first. The priority are public beaches, and certainly Allen Harbor seems to get dredged every year, and so it'll be an opportunity to put some on Gray Neck next year. So we'll look at that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to also say, I'm not complaining. I understand that there are
I
problems. I understand that the dredge got there late this year. I saw the dredge getting there late. I'd just like to have Gray Neck Road get the respect of all other beaches.
Understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My
Good
name
evening.
Sorry, my name is Margaret Hinkle. I'm at 78 Pleasant Street. I have 2 questions, and I will be brief. But before I ask questions, let me commend you on the presentation that you've made, speaking for everyone who has addressed us this evening. My first question is, what is the approximate percentage of non-resident taxpayers in Harwich Ward? And secondly, in part because I have been a long time non-resident taxpayer. This is the first time I've attended a meeting of this sort, and I think it is an extraordinary and very impressive outlay of information. Is there some way for you to convey that information to us on other than an annual basis? For example, when we get our tax bills, could we have access to some of this information? Now, I recognize, from having been here this evening, that there's a website that we can turn to, but I think probably because of my age, I'm still interested in print information. And I wonder, since you do go through the expense of sending us tax bills, whether there isn't some kind of report that could be conveyed with the tax bills that would provide us with periodic information.
We have talked about having an insert in the tax bills, which would at least, as a minimum, provide a breakdown of, for instance, how much goes to town government, how much goes to school, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing I want to point out, even though you mentioned, paper is important to you, we recently bought a software package, which is, and it's called Virtual Town Finance, something like that. What is it called?
Visigov.
VisiCal, which is meant to take...
Visigov.
Visigov.
Visual government.
Visual government, okay, which is meant to take our accounting system, which we have to follow the state, what's called the municipal accounting system. So, every account has a number, and it's according to what the state requires. And we will be able to dump all that information into this program. You will be able to access it online, so that, let's just say let's take the highway department, you would see, and it's a graphical form that happens, and it's a bunch of blocks, and it looks like a puzzle when you put it together. And we saw this, by the way, at the Massachusetts Municipal Association conference last January, and we thought it was a very good way to convey the kind of information, at least financial information you're talking about. It will allow you eventually to just call it drill down in the highway department. So you might see their whole budget, I'm making up numbers, $8 million, and you're able to drill down to, okay, this is what the salaries would be, this is how much they're spending on equipment, this is how much they spend on, gasoline and those types of things. I mean, it really drills it down. It gives you a lot of good information. But we have talked about, and we need to do it, put an insert in the tax bill, at least breaks down, where things go. I will say that our website within the last couple of months was totally revamped, and we've gone through all the growing pains associated, at least most of the growing pains associated with things that weren't linking and that type of thing. I encourage any of you to go to the website, because it's very helpful, very informative. And by the way, if you have issues or questions with it, the folks at Channel 18 are the ones that are working through the questions and whatnot as they come in. So we'll try and do a better job. I understand. I'm glad you came to this meeting, by the way, because we have this every year. Some years no one shows up, some years 3 people show up, some years you almost need a bigger room. This year looks like a great representation, so thank you for the comment. Alan Thompson, Water Commissioner.
Just mentioned the annual town report, it's all written.
Yeah, if you haven't picked one up, as a matter of fact, you could run downstairs and grab a couple, Alan, if you don't mind. Every year, we're required to print the book, the annual town report. And it's a little book that gets put together. The biggest thing we do is come up with what the cover picture is going to look like, right? That's our responsibility. But every board and committee in the town writes a report of their activities for the year. All of the articles that were dealt with at town meeting are in there. What the article was, how it was dispositioned. All the budgets are in there. All the school information ends up going in there. There's a ton of information in there, and it's a great thing to have sitting on your coffee table. Excuse me, and you just page through it. Particularly if you just want to find out who's doing what in town government, it's very useful. And Alan will bring a few up here in a minute. We print several thousand of them, so it's not a problem.
And then the percentage of non-resident taxpayers,
I don't know.
approximate?
Do you know the
I
number?
don't know if, Dave, do you know?
Yeah, it's about half and half. Just about for the value of the town and also the population. There you go. And Mr. Thompson has a special copy for you, so.
Thank you very much.
But it doesn't weigh that much, but it's very useful information. There are more out there in the box if anybody's interested. We'd love to give them out. Yes, sir.
My name's Charlie Check, and my wife and I just moved to Harwich in June. We live at 8 Dundee Circle. And I've been reading the newspaper accounts of the water quality problem, and I guess they had a vote on it, and I guess they rejected it. And I was just looking at this flyer here that I don't know whether this is directed for non-residents or residents, but it says, become involved until you can be part of the solution. But it doesn't quite, other than giving you some websites, it doesn't quite tell you what you're supposed to do to be involved. Are you supposed to pump out your septic tank every year? Are you supposed to support the thing, or what are you supposed to do?
Okay.
I would think,
Okay.
if I'm an engineer, I would put a bunch of blocks down here, what you want the people to do to be involved to solve this problem. I think it's a worthwhile project,
Right.
but you had a problem with presenting it before, and I see the same thing when I see this flyer here again, is you tell them you need to get them involved, but you don't tell them what to do.
Okay. The first thing I just want to mention is that there is a misconception, I think, with a lot of people that Title V solves the nitrogen problem, and it doesn't. I think as you saw from the charts, it does a very poor job at helping reduce nitrogen. So something else has to happen to do that. The Wastewater Implementation Committee, which Peter DePaca heads, I would say is always looking for volunteers, always looking for help, always looking for support people. One of their challenges is when they hold a meeting, and they do periodically workshops and things to present information, typically the attendance is not very good. Some people find it a very boring subject. Others find that, well, when there's one particular part of it that's interesting, then I'll come. But their biggest problem at the moment is getting the information to folks like you, and getting people involved and having people understand why we need to address the problem that's out there and what we're starting to do, the little projects we're doing, and they're going to suddenly become bigger projects to get this done. So I don't disagree with you at all. It'd be great if you could get involved. And Peter, I don't know if you want to say anything specifically about that flyer.
Well, I mean, specifically, what are we supposed to do?
Okay, he's going to tell you. He's the man looking for help.
I'll tell you what we do. The lady who spoke a few minutes ago mentioned, why don't you include things in tax bills? And I might want to add that this is the first time, I believe, that something was added to the envelope in the tax bill, namely this flyer. To the point as what the gentleman is saying, he is absolutely right, and do become involved, but the nature and extent of involvement really depends on, A, where you live, what the issue are. But I can see his issue, namely to say these are areas where we want to have more participation or information. Having said that, it is a huge issue with a lot of aspects to it. So you could become involved, and I don't mean that facetiously, in just about any aspect of it. There is a number at the bottom, and I hate to say that out of the 12,000 meetings we had, I think we had 3 telephone calls from people asking what they could do. I mean,
Yeah, what I was looking for is a checklist of some sort of people can do things, maybe put something in their septic tank that reduces nitrogen or something that, is there some kind of a chemical you can put in there that would take it out or something? I mean, is there any other way you could, you ask people to be involved, but you don't tell them what to do?
well, we look for your input in terms of how, well, to a certain extent, it is a bit late at this point in that the program has been formulated for the past 10 years. But we still need to hear from you how you, and this was earlier on, how you would like tax rates structured. So when there is a town meeting, people have to come to town meeting and decide
So
how
you're
they.
looking for participation.
Participation.
You're not really looking for them to do anything then.
At this point,
There's
there-
support.
Well, can I just ask a question? You said you moved here in June, I believe?
Yes.
Are you a full-time resident now, or are you?
I'm a part-time, 6 months in Florida.
So your official residence is where, Harwich now, or is it?
Oh, it's in Longboat Key. And I am on the
Okay.
Metropolitan Planning Organization in Longboat Key. And I
Okay.
do attend meetings by phone all the time when I'm not there.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I'm a participant.
Okay.
Just for clarity, the gentleman mentioned we have a water quality issue. We need to differentiate between the drinking water aspect, which is top of the line in Harwich, and the estuary water quality. I just want you to fully understand that aspect of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Bob Nickerson. I'm on Bayview Road in Harwichport. And I want to talk about National Grid moratorium, which nobody's talking about. So I did a lot of digging on the internet today, and they had a what realtors need to know about National Grid moratorium. So I'm going to read a couple of bullets, and then I'm going to have a couple of comments after the bullets. So first bullet, National Grid presented an updated timeline for replacing the pipeline, which shows now a 3 to 5 year replacement schedule dependent on permitting and needed reviews instead of a 5 to 7 year. So we should be applauding this, right? So my comment is National Grid provided the 5 to 7 year timeline, which is totally unrealistic in the first place and likely inflated so that 3 to 5 years looks better. So we're supposed to be really happy with this. Okay, second bullet, this is their bullet. National Grid hopes to start construction in September of 2017 and are gearing up for a summer completion of 2019, which would be 5 years from the initial need of the pipeline replacement. Comment. The statement implies National Grid is doing a better job because it will only take 5 years instead of 7 years. By the way, assuming 250 workdays per year for a total of 750 workdays results in 148 feet per day. 148 feet per day if they take 3 years to do that. So this doesn't appear to be very fast to me, and doesn't seem to be a very high priority at 148 feet a day. So why can't multiple crews work at multiple sites at the same time to increase productivity? Next comment, their comment. By the end of June 2015, National Grid has completed 30% of the plans for the pipeline replacement, which gives them the threshold to move forward with starting the permitting process. They have identified no private right-of-ways will be needed for the project, as the replacement line will be parallel to the, except within 35 feet of the existing line right now, or in some cases across the street. So what does that mean? Well, they're telling us it'll take 24 months to permit and start the work, because right now they're telling us at June 2015, but they're not going to start until summer of 2017. It's going to take them 24 months to actually get permits and start digging. It doesn't make sense at all to me. So let's also hope National Grid is smart enough to start at the west end as they work eastward. Dennis will be the first to be out of the moratorium, or should be. Why would it take the whole line have to be built and then turn on the gas? Certainly they aren't foolish enough to wait for the entire line to be constructed before they open it up. Okay, so that's from the what realtors need to know. So here's another important fact. This is June 2014. National Grid Gas Rhode Island. A statistic. 2013 they put 52 miles replaced. 2014 they did 60 miles replaced. 1 year, right? 21 miles is going to take 3 years. So here are my key points. Why is it 21 miles for that long? What's the Cape Cod Commission? The Cape Cod Commission said that they would help expedite this stuff, right? So why is the permits going to take 24 months to start construction? And then, what is the town of Harwich and other towns affected by the moratorium doing to pressure the National Grid to a faster resolution of this problem? All I see from you guys is their flyer on your website, and that's it. So what are you guys doing for us? Thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. I think that the interesting part of, actually the most interesting thing of what you said is, and I assume it's true, and that is that they don't need any new right-of-ways, which says that you just go build a thing, you know, and I think that's the frustrating part for everybody, that the time frame they're talking about is just huge, and you're absolutely right. Why would you wait and build the whole thing, or even start, you know, on the east end and work your way back to where the, you know, where your good connection is, if you will, or the good pipe is, before you bring this thing online? So I don't have an answer for you. You know, our success with both the electric and gas utilities, in particular in this state, you know, we can get into things like the spraying, if you will, you know, associated with the electric lines and that type of thing. We get into the issues we had getting the solar photovoltaic system at the landfill connected. Delay, time for both of these utilities. And, you know, it's unbelievable when you talk to state senators and state representatives who go up there and actually sit in their buildings and not even talk to. You know, it's one of those things that I don't get it either, so.
Well, you know, you guys as the town administrators and run this town as the Board of Selectmen, and the other towns that are affected, we're talking about a lot of money here that's not being generated, and I just don't understand why there's not a bigger push. We don't hear anything about it. There's no timeline. Where do we get any data? I had to dig for the data. That's not acceptable. So, you know, I don't know, Wolf has to get involved more, or Peak, or whoever, I mean.
Well, but I'll point out to you that, you know, they've been to us and said they have been involved. Both of them together went, particularly when we got into the N-Star thing about the spraying and whatnot, and they sat right in the headquarters and were just ignored.
Well, maybe we need a class action suit against them.
It might be the case. It might be the case.
Ridiculous. I mean, I have a construction project that I'm ready to do, already got approval from Historic Commission.
Sure.
5 votes to do it, already Board of Appeals, all votes to do it. It's a historical structure, and
Waiting
now
for
I'm
gas.
stuck with these guys.
You're waiting for gas, yep, thank you.
Peter?
Alan? Good.
You know, I should point out, when it comes to digging roads in Cape Cod, from Memorial Day to after Labor Day, you can't open a road, public way. December 21st or thereabouts till April 1st, you can't open a road during the winter. So you only got a short span of time you can open up public ways. And they're out surveying it. And the other thing is markouts and all that type of work. You can only do so many markouts and do a certain area. And if you don't get it done, you have to remark it, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot goes on as far as digging up and putting the gas main. And I remember when they ran the main along Great Western, each segment was, you know, they weld, X-ray, the whole bit. And on the other hand, they go around and put miles of 1-inch service in just a matter of 3 or 4 months, because it's just a small line. But when it comes to high-pressure mains, it's a whole different ballgame. But the biggest thing is you can only open the road up certain times. So that's it.
Thank you. Okay, who else? Link. Gonna solve your gas problem here.
I happened to have a meeting with Dennis McAfee, who's the head public relations guy for the region, this coming Thursday. So if you have specific questions, I
He just
might
gave them
be
to you,
able to
I
help
think.
you.
He gave them to you.
Well, I heard a plethora of them, and you're preaching to the choir. I have testified at the Cape Cod Commission about their expansion projects and so forth. I've gone up to Boston and testified. As you know, they get permission from the siting board, and there's nothing anyone can do about their route selection. I don't like them digging up our roads any more than anybody else, but I have found them to be, once they come down with a plan, they've been pretty responsive to our needs. Like when we're not happy with the restoration of something, they've been very responsive, and their contractors have been pretty responsive.
So my suggestion, if you're meeting with the PR person, is to explain they have a PR problem in Harwich and elsewhere on the Cape, just because of the timeline.
It's not the PR person I'm dealing with.
Understand. Thank you. Okay. Yep.
Peter,
Oh, Angelo.
just a comment. I wish we had the kind of power to deal with this, because we have problems with them, we have problems with N-Star, and they just deal with the state. Of interest is, you made a comment about what went on in Rhode Island. This isn't Rhode Island. That's one of the problems. A lot of the problem is the way the state approves things and the timing that they have. I feel for you, but we'll try and do what we can. But there's state issues involved.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Hale, and I'm a resident of the happiest street in Harwich Port, Ocean Avenue, in the campgrounds. I have a couple of little questions. One is regarding the repair or replacement of beach stairs. I don't know who to contact or if there's a schedule for maintenance, but ours are deteriorating at our beach, and we've had to call, and they're replacing one board at a time over the last couple of years.
Okay, I think Mr. Hooton, or Chris, do you have an answer?
Yeah, actually, in this year's budget, in the capital budget, we did put in funding for the materials. We have made a decision, we didn't have as much funding as we would like, so we made the decision to kind of buy the materials. And I don't know if Eric Beebe is still here or not, but in coordination
Eric's
with
here.
Eric, we're trying to prioritize those stairs. So the folks at DPW will be rebuilding them, and then Eric is going to lay out which ones have the highest priority that need to be replaced. So we do have a plan underway.
So you said Ocean Ave?
Yeah.
Eric, do you know where Ocean Ave stands on your priority list of getting stairs replaced?
I defer to Mr. Libby on that.
Which we didn't invite him to the meeting, unfortunately.
Could I request that you get in touch with this young lady and advise her where
Yes.
she stands on the list, please?
Yep.
Okay?
And
On your way out, would you just make sure he has your contact information,
will.
please?
my other small question is regarding the campgrounds, tiny streets, kids on bikes. The intersection of Ocean Ave and Park Place is a fatality waiting to happen. And I'm wondering if there exists like temporary speed bumps or something that could be thought of for the summer. It's a four-way stop, but people blow through it all the time, and it's very scary. Somebody's going to be killed.
I think
A
this
little
could be
kid.
an opportunity for our new chief, police chief, to come down and visit and get familiar with the campgrounds. Campgrounds is
Show
a
you
unique
around.
part of Harwichport, if you will, chief, and again, if you would take the time, be so kind to go down and visit with this young lady, she'll show you some of her concerns.
Cool. Thank you. And now the big one.
Big one.
I know this isn't the exact forum, and so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I just need some help because we're very frustrated with the Historic District and Historic Commission still wanting to make a historic district out of our neighborhood. They had the initial residents meeting over 3 years ago, have yet to answer one question like, why do you want to do this? What's in it for us? Or what's the point? And me and several of my neighbors go to every single meeting because we're always on the agenda as old business. And we're afraid if we don't go, they're going to pass something behind our back. So I don't want to get into a big thing tonight because it's not really the place, but we're so frustrated. Mr. Clark was very kind to meet with us and give us some direction, but we would like to do something to say, do it or leave us alone, so that we can deal with it. So I'm
Thank you
just
for bringing it to
throwing
our
that at
attention.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Well, okay. We thank you all for attending. This is great you were able to come, and appreciate the feedback and the comments. We are going to continue with our normal agenda, if you will. So you're welcome to stay if you'd like. If you leave, you can always watch on Channel 18, which apparently a lot of people do. But you're welcome to stay, or if you have something else to do, you're welcome to leave as well. So thank you for attending. We appreciate it. What is this?
I'm sorry?
This is old?
This is the
When is this from?
new consent agenda. Just looking at the packet.
Yeah.
So on the consent agenda, it says
These
approved
other
minutes
items?
of
Right.
18. And right underneath of it, it's just a general discussion. It should be continued. Why don't you stay? I don't care, because I can't. Really going back.
Well, it doesn't hurt to vote it, so.
I'm not saying it.
You and you took A out?
Yeah, he's saying
Yeah,
it.
I know, I was off Thursday. and
Okay, we're gonna get started because it's gonna get late pretty quick. How's that? You like that?
It's first time you used it.
I know, it's good, huh? Now that I know what to do with it, that's pretty good. Thank you. Okay, next segment is public comments and announcements. Probably we heard from the public, so there probably aren't too many public comments. Any announcements anybody has out there? Anything going on in the community we should know about? I do want to point out just one thing, and that is that Albra House next door is essentially complete. We're going to talk a little bit later tonight about removing the garage and whatnot. I do know that many people have asked, and Lou is on the mend. He did tell me in an email today that his leg is now, well, I should back up. He basically broke his ankle and had a rod inserted. He told me that the swelling's going down to the point now that it's really painful, so otherwise he's going to try and get here tonight. But we will, at our next meeting, which will be the 24th, we'll be having a little bit of a recognition and discussion about Albert House. So, thank you. Most of the comments I get, 99% of them are that people now are in love with the color scheme. They understand it, they get it, they appreciate it, and I think it looks great. So we'll talk about that more later. Any other announcements? Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. The first thing I'm going to do is the approval of the minutes of May 18, 2015. That's the last Board of Selectmen minutes before the election, so only the three of us can deal with this. So could I have a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of May 18th, 2015.
Second.
I moved and seconded to approve the minutes of May 18, 2015. Discussion? Hearing none, all is in favor? Aye. Aye, it's a vote, thank you. Okay, I would like to hold item J, which is the, just talk separately about, and that's to approve a harbor demolition beautification fund for the former Downey property. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but I asked Janelle, would you read the rest of the consent agenda for us? Please.
Mr. Chair, I move that we vote to approve the minutes from July 13th, 2015 regular session, July 27th, 2015 executive session. Approve the award of contract for the Allen Harbor Concrete Restroom to Shea Concrete Products in the amount of $43,600. Approve and sign amendment number 5 to the contract for construction services for the Muddy Creek Bridge project dated March 11th, 2013 in the amount of $171,269.60. Approve the contract between the town of Harwich and Barnstable County to dredge Allen Harbor Channel in the amount of $90,000 and authorize the chair to sign. Approve the appointment of Paul Borak, is that how I say it? Borak. As police sergeant with an annual salary of $67,060, Sergeant Step 1. Accept the gift of $10,624 to the community center from the Aura Gaylord Aruth Trust and authorize the chair to sign. Approve the recommendation of the DPW director to install a memorial bench in memory of Joshua Stanley Gordon to be installed on the OCBT across from Island Pond Cemetery. Approve the request by Cape Cod Clada to have outside entertainment on August 22nd, 2015 from 4 to 8 p.m. Noise not to exceed premises. Approve the request for assistance from the Caleb Chase Fund as recommended. And what happened to my thing? And authorize the town administrator to execute the DER grant for the Muddy Creek Restoration Bridge project in the amount of $1 million.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. I just point out on the Clatter Inn, Chief, we've had a number of issues there in the past, just so you know. I'm sure your deputy can fill you in on some of those. This is specifically a request for the, say, the Patriarch's birthday, if you will, and it is specifically 4 to 8 p.m., not to go beyond 8 p.m. So I'm sure you'll be keeping an eye on that as we go forward. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? It's a vote. Thank you. Okay. We have no additional public hearings or presentations. No old business. New business. Wastewater educational moment.
You were gonna, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you were gonna do J separately?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry. Thank you very
Just a
much.
suggestion.
Okay. J is approve a harbor demolition beautification fund for the former Downing property. Matt Hart? Matt, to speak on this, or Chris, did you want to?
Matt can go first.
Okay. Matt Hart, Chairman of the Waterways.
Yes, Matt Hart, Chairman of Waterways and the Chairman of the Saquatucket Development Committee. This came about through a long process, but I'll make it brief. As you know, about 2 years ago, we decided we wanted to relook at the idea of purchasing the Downey property. And in the process, the Selectmen decided to get an outside appraisal. That went before the board and it was accepted, and then it went to town meeting almost 2 years ago. The town approved the purchase of the property for harbor purposes. Then a year went by. There was negotiations and back and forth. We had another town meeting, but we couldn't go before the town meeting and say we needed X for cleaning up the property, this type of thing, because we didn't know if we were going to get it. The Saquatucket Development Committee has been working on this of what will happen if we do have the property and what will happen if we don't have the property, for the land side. Now, what I wanted to speak to you about is people are saying, well, why can't the highway department just do this? Thanks to Chris, during the last year, the Saquatucket Development Committee, along with the Highway Department, the Selectmen, Board of Health, Town Engineers, Harbor Master, Conscom, Planning Board, Building Department, and Natural Resources, we put together a preliminary site plan at no cost to the public. We've had perk tests looking at different areas. So a lot of things have happened that only people that went to our meetings knew about. About a week ago with Chris, and I don't know where Link went, there were a group of us down there looking at the property, and it's not just a matter of bulldozing it. They have to have an excavator which picks up the wooden part and things like that and separates the blocks and grinds them. What it comes down to is the cost associated with this. And if I understood it correctly, say it's $10,000 or $12,000, the process that we would have to go through is come before you to apply for an article in the next town meeting, which then the money wouldn't be available until next July, and you're not going to do it in the middle of July. I explained this to a group of people who happened to be over in Saquatucket Bluffs, and afterwards one of the gentlemen came up to me and said, why don't you see if we can get a dedicated fund and see if the people that want to get rid of this mess right away will help pay for it. And that's why I'm here.
Okay. So the request here is to create this fund. Chris?
Yeah, actually, that was a pretty good summary. Really, in order for us to move forward in a timely fashion, you know, we have to put together the warrant article and get something on the capital budget and go through. If people would like to see us do something a little bit quicker, I know Link's folks will go out and can do the demolition work, but the removal, the cost to actually have the construction debris is really what we're looking for. So I think one of the things that Matt's come forward with is the Harbor Beautification Fund, and I think as long as people understand that we would create that as a gift account, similar to what the board did with the Albro House, that people would be able to donate to it, and the purpose of it would be to help us with the demolition process and to help with the landscaping going forward, to make it so it's a prettier site, for lack of a better term, as we move forward with the renovation. But I think anytime that the government can partner up with residents who have an interest, I think, you know, we should pursue that and encourage that. So I think this is a step in that right direction.
The intent here, if I understand it, is to get those two buildings down, but if I remember right, at least in the, I'll just call it the pizza building, there are still test wells in there, right? That obviously you can't disturb.
We're going to have a little bit of a challenge. The garage building was fairly straightforward. I think we should be able to do demolition work in that. There was only the monitoring wells. In the pizza building, they actually had a vacuum recovery system. So they basically draw air up and they clean it before they release it to the environment. That seemed a little, I don't know if it's currently still working the way it was intended, I'll put it that way. But on that one, we'll have to reach out to the licensed site professional, ExxonMobil, and make sure that that is inert. So if we demo the building, that we're not doing anything that was accomplishing. So we have a few hurdles to get over. None of that is something that we can't do. One of the things that you will see is John Rendon has volunteered his people to kind of clear out some of the, we'll get rid of some of the weeds and try to clean up the site. So we'll do what we can do in-house, but the big dollars are going to we're going to need town meeting, or we're going to need some gift money in order to do some of this.
Mr. Chairman, we already have the, excuse me, Conservation Commission's that permit. What I gave to Chris was the first part of the demolition permit, and I think that's what prompted the inspection down there. But I think you wanted to change the name, and I agree. It's the Harbor Demolition and Beautification. Now, this isn't the end of the project. This is just to get it cleaned up and get the buildings out of there. They'll be just left there, and then it can be used for, you know, overflow parking and things like that. There's a lot more that has to be done later. This is just to make it more presentable to the people going down Route 28.
No, we own it. We want to address it. Let's put it that way. All right, Linda.
I hear you.
Thank you.
But I have a couple questions. The purchase of the Downey property should have been no surprise to anyone. We've been working on it. So I think what I'm hearing is that in no place in the budget, nobody thought about how much it might cost, how we were going to take these buildings down, how we were going to get the junk from one place to the transfer station. Nobody thought about this. And therefore, we're going to put a 10 cup out on the sidewalk and ask the population of this town to put more money into it when we did such poor planning. Is that kind of what I'm hearing here? That is what I'm hearing here. And I understand, though, we've got to get it done, et cetera, and waiting for town. I'm somewhat, well, I'm not.
Mr. Chairman, Linda, we brought it up, and you've been to a couple of those meetings. The problem we had until 2 weeks ago, we weren't even sure if we were going to get the property.
But you know what, Matt? That's why it's called, I see no robust planning here by town administration. We are pretty sure we were going to get the property, so here we are sitting here, we've put no money aside, nowhere in this, we've got a $57 million budget, we can't find $12,000 to do this. I'm really pretty staggered by this. I'm going to get probably forced into saying, voting for this because it's got to get done. But I can tell you, it's going to be, I'm extremely disappointed in that this is where we are at this point. And Matt, I don't mean that as a criticism of you guys, but it seems that I'm hearing somebody's going to volunteer here and somebody's going to where's the plan? What is nobody thought about this. And I am incredibly disappointed, once again, at the lack of robust thinking and planning. And here we are sitting here with, we own a piece of property that shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone. I've said my piece, I'm very disappointed. I don't need any more explanations.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
in
Go ahead,
fairness, you know, it did take longer than we had anticipated. We had a lot of the contamination issues to make sure the town wasn't saddled with that. In terms of the way planning is done, if you notice this Aquatucket development, we just funded that. We're going to plan that out, do that first, and then we'll come follow up with the construction. You know, the fact that we didn't put, you know, a few dollars aside, I guess, you know, shame on me. Ultimately, I'm the boss, so, you know, in terms of the operation, so, you know, I take the criticism directly. But not knowing when we would be able to secure it, not knowing, quite honestly, if we could make sure we protected the town's interest from the liability of the contamination and make sure that we protected it, had kind of a big question mark in my mind. And I think here is really, you know, we haven't done anything with the Albro House either. So the Albro House is kick-started by having a volunteer effort. So I think this is a similar, you know, vein, that there are folks that want to contribute to the community and help us. This isn't going to be a replacement. We need to do the study. We need to do the construction for what's going to ultimately go there. But what we're looking for is, instead of having it stay as kind of a eyesore for a year, why don't we try to clean it up? So in my mind, you know, if it continues to sit, then I could understand the criticism. But, you know, quite honestly, I think the timing of the criticism is unfair.
Well, I will say that I stand by my criticism because as part of the planning process, yes, I understand we had to make sure that we protected the town for liability for all of the damage to the you know, the property, the land, et cetera. But still, the fact that nobody thought about this and we can't find the money in our budget to do this, and we have to further hold up the town, even though there are people, I'm sure, that are willing to participate, but it's just, this one sticks in my craw.
To be fair, this board didn't ask that question either, and I don't mean you two weren't here, but this board didn't ask that question. We had multiple meetings on executive sessions and whatnot on this negotiation as we went forward. I don't think the Finance Committee, during the process of putting the budget together, asked, you know, where's the $12,000 or $15,000 to do something here. I view this as, right now, it's an opportunity. We got the land. We finally own the property. If this, you know, you set up the fund is one thing. We may not fund it enough. Who knows? I mean, it may not get funded to do the job. I don't know. But if those folks are willing to come forward and we can do this and get this thing so that those two buildings are out of there, And the site has a few plants or flowers or whatever until we figure out what we really want to do and get that funded. It's not a bad approach to go, let's put it that way, based on where we are today. Matt?
Peter,
Yep.
I would say that in response to that, we get criticized for micromanaging. So the fact that we didn't mention this, now we're getting criticized for not mentioning it. So we either micromanage or we stick with policy. So I think we have to take our pick here.
Okay.
I think that I'm still outraged.
Good.
I'm finished, but I have two people behind me who would like to say
Okay.
something.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Mr. DeCosta.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Speaking on behalf of the Finance Committee, or are you speaking?
I'm here as a member of the Finance Committee, and I don't know how well we would have received a request in the budget process to just add 10 or 12 or $15,000 for the hope of getting the property and cleaning it up in advance. I know that it's a problem right now, and I don't know, I can't speak for the committee, but certainly a reserve fund transfer request coming before the committee would be talked about and decided upon. There's another funding source for you if you're looking for possibilities. Certainly, there is a danger that we didn't own prior to the budget being passed, and we do own it now, so I would think that committee would at least address it. So I'll just throw that out as a possibility.
Thank you. John Rendon.
Yes, sir. I just want to make one comment. I did have in my capital plan that I brought before the Capital Outlay Committee and the Finance Committee, a project item for funds for shoreside design, shoreside renovations. And I was asked to pull it out of the budget because of the Downey, because we had not purchased the Downey yet, and we did not know whether it would be finalized. And so I was advised, and I frankly agreed, that we should pull it out of the capital budget, and this was at the direction of the Capital Outlay and the Finance Committee. So I think we did have some planning and some forethought for the shoreside facility of Saquatucket, and I pulled it out.
Michael.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve a arbor demolition and beautification fund for the former Downey property.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to establish, I guess I would say, by approval, the Harbor Demolition Beautification Fund for the Downey property. Discussion? Hearing none, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. 4-1 vote. Thank you. Okay, I think that's all the consent agenda, right?
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me, just to be clear on that, on the topic, now that the fund's established, I assume nothing will happen until the fund gets funded at the
Yes.
level you need. So if we
Yes.
don't get the funds, nothing happens, right?
May I ask just a couple
Well,
follow-up questions,
I-
which
I
is,
wanna be
who
clear,
gets to
though.
spend the money?
Hang on one second.
I want to be clear. I mean, John Rendon can go over and have his crews clean up the weeds.
Right.
I would say, you know, within about 72 hours of getting the keys, to have actually, I got the keys, I think, that same day that we went in to inspect the property.
Right.
So we were pretty timely. We will do everything that we can do without asking a department head to overspend something that he hasn't budgeted for.
I understand. Linda? Did you have a
Just, yes, I did. Who's going to spend the money? I don't think that was part of that motion.
I will, yeah.
I mean,
The concept we were talking about, the harbor master would oversee it at the responsibility of the town administrator to approve it.
Okay, so, is that part of your motion?
Yes, it was, I heard that.
Yeah, I second that.
No, let's just be clear. How about another motion that now we have the fund established, that authorization to spend money out of the fund would be recommended by the harbor master and approved by the town administrator.
So
At least that's what I heard.
yes. So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay.
Abstain.
Okay. So, well, we're not done yet, I think. I don't know. Do you have another question? Okay.
No, I said abstain.
I know, but I mean, did you, I thought you said you had a couple. No? Okay, I think we're down with the consent agenda now. We have no old business. New business, this is the same on wastewater educational moment. This is the same figure that David Young presented on watershed nitrogen reduction levels. I'm just throwing it up there. I don't want to spend much time on it. But the point is that in every one of our watersheds, there are very, very significant percentages of reduction in nitrogen level that exist today. So that's just information.
So Peter, just to be clear, those percentages are what is needed. For instance, Witchmere Harbor needs 100% nitrogen reduction in order
to get us in compliance, I guess is the way to think about it. Okay? And again, this is all contained, all these cartoons that we use or graphics are all in the comprehensive wastewater management plan. And every week we put one or two of these things up. So that's all I had to say on that one. Next topic is near-term wastewater activities. I don't want any decision on this tonight, but I do want to point out that, you know, we're going to find out that pretty quickly we're going to get ourselves into a budget season. Pretty quickly we're going to be starting talking about articles. Time is going to go by. And so having to do with wastewater activities, I'll just throw out, and I think we need to decide what we're going to try and take through the budget process or into town meeting next year, how ambitious or aggressive we want to be in trying to tackle some of these. And I just identify, for instance, the organizational structure of water, wastewater, what that's going to be. And I'll just say, Michael, I know you're our representative, if you will, or in a liaison to the water commissioners. There was some activity done by Larry before on what that organization might look like. I think there needs to be a discussion about that. I think that, and I'd like you to spearhead that to get going with the water commissioners and work with Chris and whatnot, and ultimately bring something back to, a couple of concepts back to the Board of Selectmen that we can at least consider. Alan, is there something you want to say on that topic?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do have, Michael has scheduled a meeting on the 13th, the morning of the 13th, to discuss our position on it and kind of see where we're headed. So he can report back to you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously I think the best way forward is if between ourselves, the town administrator, and your team, if we can agree how to make this all work, it's a lot easier to push through.
Absolutely.
If we don't, we don't. But, you know, we need to have those discussions, start playing with some org charts and whatnot, and, you know, whatever.
He's taken the initiative. We've agreed we should get together and try to work through things out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, good. The next one is the intermunicipal agreement with Chatham. We met with them, remember that was in June? I think it was early June. Since that time, we set you two guys up as our representatives, if you will. We had talked about getting together sometime the end of July. They said, you guys need to get a meeting scheduled. I guess is what needs to happen. I will say that we did have the tour of the wastewater facility, which was very informative, I thought. And, very interesting. Okay, so if you could keep us informed as to, you know, what progress you're making and whatnot. I do think that's one of those items that we definitely need to get done. You know, for the coming year, if you will. Whether or not we're gonna, you know, go forward with a water wastewater infrastructure fund for the next town meeting, that's a topic of discussion, and we need to decide if that's something we want to pursue or not. And then, you know, we still don't have a recharge site, so we need some activity in those areas, and there might be some others. I'm just putting this out there as we need to start noodling about, you know, what we're going to do with this. Okay.
Just I'm sorry.
Matt.
Mr. Chairman, would you please, as you're going forward, make sure everyone understands the difference between a recharge area and a sewage treatment plant?
Sure.
Which was a problem we had before?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, you know, just to comment on what Matt said.
Well, let me just back up for a second. A recharge site, quite frankly, when we talked with Chatham, our last meeting we had with Chatham, and I think it was reinforced when we went to the tour, if you will, which was just 2 weeks ago, I think, at the wastewater facility. Bob Duncanson, their guy who's in charge of wastewater over there, was kind enough to give us a tour. I think, as most people know, at Chatham, they have their own discharge sites. They look like giant sandboxes, basically. And they have 6 of them, if I remember correctly, and they're using 2 at any one point in time. Ultimately, that water finds its way down somewhere to Cockle Cove. Whether it goes under Cockle Cove and comes out, you know, further out in the Sound, or whether it dumps right into Cockle Cove, they don't know yet, because the transport times, you know, it takes years. It takes years for it to get down there. Their guess at the moment is, and they told us at the meeting that we had with them previously, that they do not expect, at least initially, that we're gonna have to have a recharge site in Harwich, because they think that their numbers are gonna be such that they can discharge it or recharge it all right on site there. The problem is that they identified the fact that they would need, with some amount of time, 2-3 years' notice, if in fact their numbers went up, let's put it that way, at Cockle Cove, and they had to come back to us and tell us the only way we'll take your stuff is for you, Harwich, to take back the discharge and recharge it someplace, okay? And so that's the site we're looking for. There's no intent in East Harwich for any municipal, you know, sewage plant. That's not a discussion that I know of at the moment, and I don't expect it would be. When you go over and look at the Chatham plant, there's a huge amount of capacity there. There's no reason why you wouldn't send everything you can there, quite frankly. They were very smart when they built it, in that they put in, on some of the buildings and equipment, they put in extra foundations and footings to accommodate expansion, those types of things. So it's a very well very well-run plant, I can speak. And you know, as long as we can come up with an agreement that makes sense. You know, they told us it's gonna cost $200 million to connect there. Well, obviously, we're not gonna do that. But as long as the agreement is reasonable, I think that'd be the way we go.
Mr. Chairman, I guess I was referring to the last election. There was
Yeah.
quite a bit of misunderstanding about what was going to go behind my house in Hawks Nest Pond.
I understand.
And I just asked that make sure we clarify what those 2 things are. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Or not.
Thank you.
Could we also just stress that recharge means the water has been cleaned and treated? Because I know that during the last election cycle, I heard the comment that we were going to, recharge meant we were taking raw sewage and we're gonna put it on the ground. Recharge means cleaned, treated water.
The last step that, you know, as we went through the process over there, the last step that the discharge goes through as it leaves the plant is to go through ultraviolet
kill
treatment.
anything,
So-
ultraviolet, the charcoal, everything. But just to stress that recharge means cleaned water.
But Peter, I thought that our tour again this time of the plant was good, and it reinforced the things we knew. I was disappointed though, because of all the people who have made comments about recharge and wanted to get in and understand what was going on, we only had one person other than the town administrator and a variety of selectmen show up. And I believe there was one resident who showed up, and I think it was interesting chatting with him, because about 25% of the way through the tour, he started to change his general opinions, and by the time he got to the end, he had a very different view than he began with, and it was quite good. We may have to ask to do that again.
Sure.
Because I think we have to, you know, people have conflicts and whatnot. If we can arrange again, I think one of the interesting comments was that his guess was that if he had sent everything back to Harwich, you would need maybe 2 acres worth of ground to use for the recharge. We were looking at turning 26 acres into conservation. If you envision that in the middle, not a big deal. You have trees all around it. But I'm sorry. But I think we have to be prepared to allow that, or ask.
I think we have to have
again.
a site, just so we have the possibility.
I was just
Hello.
Ann Howe, I was just going to add that I signed up and they couldn't accommodate the date that I signed up for. And so I'm sure that you're correct, that there were other people who wanted to come but could not make it on that date. So I
Maybe
just
we
wanted to put you.
Yeah, maybe we get Mr. Duncanson to have it on a Saturday morning or something, I don't know.
No, I was stuck in traffic.
No, but I
and I
mean-
knew I would be.
Maybe, it may be easier for people if it were sometime like that, I don't know.
That's true. But I've actually tried to contact him and haven't been able to get through yet, so I just
I think
wanted
it's
to let you
important that
know.
we set up something. Maybe we can ask perhaps Sandy or something to broker a time with Mr. Duncanson and whoever else might want to do it.
Yeah, or maybe when you have your next meeting with Chatham, you reinforce that.
Okay, I think it's important.
Okay. All right, so my intent here is just to get these items, so we get to a point where we say, okay, we're gonna try and tackle X, Y, and Z in the coming year. I think you can all go through the document that John Giorgio wrote up, which has eons of things that need to be changed in the charter and all those types of things. I know it's onerous, but recognize that we committed to have a meeting with the Charter Review Committee in the middle of September to give them some direction as to where we want them to head with charter, potential charter amendments in the coming year. And as we heard from them, the sooner we give them stuff, the better they're able to do their job, so.
Peter, I'm just
Yep.
asking one question. Water, wastewater infrastructure fund, is that the one that's based on
On
the
the
one?
CPA.
On the CPA?
Yes.
Okay,
Concept.
concept.
And just to be clear, in our last meeting, we had John Giorgio here. When I asked the question about if it had to be 3%, and he said, yes, it had to be 3%, he sent me an email. I don't know if he copied the
did.
whole board the next day.
I think just
or-
you and I.
Okay, and what he said was, oops, it's up to 3%, so you can set it, pick a number, 1%, 2%, whatever you want.
When you went
At
through the
least it's,
materials too, he had re-emphasized in this material that was in the package that it was up to 3%. So he had it right the first time, he
Yeah.
just didn't remember it in
Yeah,
the last one.
too many things going on. Yeah.
I don't. I
Dan?
just wanted to point out the search for a recharge site. Myself, Chris, Ann, and I believe another member of the implementation committee have elected to create a task group to move forward with searching for a recharge site. So I just want to make that note.
Good, thank you.
So.
Yep. Jim?
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Good.
I just want to do a quick rebuttal to what Angelo said. It's not simply a matter of convincing me that 2 acres can go in a hawk's nest. It's not allowed by zoning. Let's keep that in mind.
Well, but you can change zoning.
You can, 2/3 vote at town meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so if you guys have any other topics on this you want to try and get done, in the next year, even these would be ambitious to get, to get all this done.
I think we should go forward with only those things we need at this point, rather than try and get everything done the way Mr. DeGiorgio had laid out, because I think that'll be too confusing. So we have to pick those things that we need to have.
Right.
Which I think is what you have here.
I think it is.
Yeah.
And if we got this done, I think we'd do a lot of work, quite
Jump up
frankly.
and down.
so.
I was just, Mr. Chairman, on the wastewater implementation fund, I mean, is that something that the board really needs additional material on? I mean, the board voted that that was gonna be one of your primary funding sources. I mean, that's just a matter of placing that on the ballot. I mean, is that something that, would the board like me to put together the basics of, or maybe I can ask Mr. Giorgio to do the wording on the article? And then, I know that's a little bit early, but I don't see a reason why the board can't have a initial vote saying, yes, we want to do this, and yes, we want to have it on the ballot.
Yeah, I guess the question is, depending on what you decide to use for percent, how that
Right.
factors into it, whether you can stick that in at the last minute, or whether it says something up to 3% or whatever.
Yeah,
But I mean, I was just thinking, I mean, he put together the language on the middle school options. I
Right.
just got that,
Right.
I think, today. So, I mean, we can have him draft that language and at least have that ready to go for the board to vote. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me.
That's a bylaw change, right? Or is it?
No, it's
Special legislation,
it's-
isn't
that's just the acceptance of,
Special,
the acceptance of a statute.
okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Annette?
Danette Gonzalez.
We-
I was just wondering, is it too early just to start a wastewater enterprise fund? Couldn't we just establish that now? just to,
Well, as
just
part
to
of
have
his-
it so when
as
it's
part of his
time.
governance model, which was one of the, I think there was 19 points, which, you know, we have that material. He has the establishment of the enterprise fund in that.
Okay.
So that is one of the thoughts.
So we just need an article to establish it? It's a charter change.
That one was part of the governance model, so that would be a charter change.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is charter change stuff.
But I would feel much more comfortable if we figured out the organizational structure first, quite frankly. And then we can figure out where money flows or who has control of what, you know, how it all works, whatever. Because ultimately, you know, you get a water enterprise thing going on, you get a wastewater thing going on. Is there some way they come together? I don't know. You know, we have to figure that out. Okay. Anything else on that? All right. Town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On, I just wanted to bring up on the Eversource, we did get material from them that they are going to come back and do some additional herbicide applications. They have, let me see if I have the date right here. They're looking at the treatment, the foliage treatments will take place between September 1st and October 16th. So they are looking at doing this again, and then they're talking about doing additional follow-up from October 5th and December 31st in areas on the right-of-way. So we, obviously, the board had taken an action last year to try to encourage them to take additional steps to inform and make sure that the folks that were actually doing the applications were doing it in a manner that was more protective of the environment. And the board, this past March, did send a letter to NSTAR and asking them, this was in coordination with the Conservation Commission, that they not use herbicides. They do have the ability to do mechanical means in certain areas within wetlands, as well as in close proximity to mapped vernal pools. So I just, in the other request, and this I think mirrors where the board had done even the year before, to have the people that actually are doing the applications to reach out and meet with town staff to make sure they're not just looking at a 10,000 feet up view of a map, that they actually get a more definitive. I don't think that we've ever received an official response from Eversource to these inquiries, but just so folks are aware that we have again received it. They're entitled to do this work, but we have reached out to attempt to have them do it in a, I want to say, a more responsible manner. So I just wanted to alert folks to that.
You know, I think also that one of the things we're asking for is just, you know, at least give us the courtesy to let us know when you're actually coming to town. You know, 48 hours notice, 72 hours notice, something that says, okay, you know, here it is Monday. Well, on Thursday, we plan to be in this area doing this kind of work, just so that, you know, we're aware of it, so that at least someone can monitor it, whether it's Amy or, you know, somebody else. We certainly don't want the situation they ran into last year, that we had someone get sprayed, so.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I just want to say, you know, for the water department, they don't use chemicals within 400 feet of the actual wellhead. But when they completed their work last year, we decided to do water testing for those chemicals. At this point, we have zero as far as any sign of any of those chemicals. But I want to say that in the future, if this keeps on, that I would look for Eversource to pay for those water testing, which amounted to around $6,000. So I plan on being around, so I would come back in the future.
You plan on being around, they send the first check?
Yeah.
Is that?
Kind of mandate, they pick up the tab, you know, to know where we stand. But as it stands now, we have no signs. It was a little early on, but time will tell.
You know, I think Eversource, you need to add an N in the front, it's NeverSource, like they never get back to us. You know what I mean? No, it's
It would be never response.
No.
something. I mean, it's just,
Okay.
talk about bad PR. Anyhow.
question. Should we sent this letter in March, and this is a senior arborist. Should we take this letter and just photocopy it and stick it in an envelope and send it to him? See if we can just keep nudging them on some of these issues?
Well, we can certainly do a new letter with, you know, signed by the new Board of Selectmen, if you will, reconstituted Board of Selectmen.
But
It could be
basically the same
exactly the
letter.
same words, yeah. I mean, I have no problem with that. Is that a motion?
I'll move that we reissue this letter with the, as the reconstituted Board of Selectmen, so that it is current.
Second.
Moving to second, any discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's a vote, thank you. You might want to just check the dates and things like that, make sure it's correct, and then we'll have to get the Conservation Commission to sign in on it too. I'm sure they will.
Okay.
Okay.
On the next item I had was on the Albro House, that we have received a request to do some demolition, and what's anticipated is the shed and then the addition to the side of the building here. And I did look today for a couple reasons, but one was I think the Board of Selectmen, if they're okay with this, that they would have to declare that surplus. There is and I was made aware today also, that there is someone that may be interested in taking those parts of the building away. So we would have to do a bid process, albeit a fairly scaled-down bid process, because I don't believe the value in these two things are that substantial. But if we could have somebody come in and just remove those. So if the board is okay, and it's my understanding that the reason why the back shed wasn't painted or the addition is that they were they were add-ons after the fact, so they're not, in fact, part of the historic structure.
Did you have the Historic District Committee just confirm that before you knock a building down?
have.
That's
I
fine.
believe they have already,
He's-
too.
Yeah, because the chair is offering to pay for it.
Well, it'd be good to have a paper trail. Let's put it
Yeah,
that
that's
way.
all I'm
Mike?
saying, just
Should we
let's
put
have the
this
paper.
on the agenda for discussion, on the next agenda? And not, I mean, are we gonna try and we shouldn't take an action on this tonight, it doesn't say discussion or possible vote.
I don't, yeah, I mean, in this case, I don't see any real harm in putting it on there. I think the value is under 5,000, you know, if I had to guesstimate what the value would be of those two things. So it is somewhat of a straightforward process. I think the reason why I at least wanted to bring it to the board was to have it on here and to say that we were intending on doing that.
I hate bringing this up, but do we have this in the budget to do?
Well, this would be,
Somebody's paying us.
someone would conceivably pay us to remove it, so there would be no cost. Mr. Urbano
C&D
has-
charges, basically, if we knock it down.
Yeah, Mr. Urbano did do and the board voted, we do have, I think it's $300 worth of gifts that we've received, and the estimated cost for the demolition. Again, we would do the work in-house, so it's just a C&D charge, would probably be about $140. So we could do the demolition and have that be done and pay for the C&D out of that gift account. But it was brought to my attention that there may be some interest in having someone take it away.
That's fine,
That's all.
It's similar to something else we discussed this evening.
But to the board's point, or to Mike's point, I mean, I'm happy, I'll do a little write-up and then submit that and ask for the board to, you know, declare that as surplus,
That's fine.
if the board's more comfortable.
Chris, would you also make sure somebody opens that little door on the side of the front, next to the garage door? That's a locked door. I don't know what's in there. Somebody at least look in there and see if there's any
Okay.
valuable stuff in there. I just don't know. You know, it's a little man door to the right of the overhead garage door. So, Michael?
So nothing else is gonna be decided on this until we have it on the agenda,
Right.
correct?
Right.
Yeah, no action will be taken until you do declaration of surplus.
Thank you.
Okay.
On the next item I have is on the Assistant Town Administrator search process. I did want to at least volunteer or suggest that I know some of the subcommittee on the interview committee did meet with some people today. It may be easier to have those people be just my suggestion. That way we would follow the administrative process and not have to follow the open meeting law for the assistant town administrator. So the names that were brought to my attention, and I totally concur with, Leo Kukunis, Tom Johnson, and Jill Mason. So I would at least suggest to the board that if the board's comfortable with those names, that they would be the 3 citizen participants that the board had asked to have included in the process for the assistant town administrator.
Just to be clear, did you interview these folks?
Yes.
Okay. And that's your recommendation? That they be, yeah, they be part of the committee, they be part of the search?
To Chris.
Yeah, through the administrator. That just saves us from the public open meeting law.
Need us to do anything on that?
On-
You're just telling us?
Yeah, and there's no action that as long as the board's comfortable with that action that's going to be taken, that I'll be appointing these people to the board. In terms of the schedule, we did receive a total of 94, which exceeds the number last time. I think it was 89. So we have 94 applicants. We have already scanned those. So I will set up a schedule, send the materials out to the 3 folks on the town side, well, the 6 folks in total on the search committee, and we will get that process started. It's my intent to have that review done as timely as possible. Anytime you have an opening, people usually are looking for other jobs, so they may have their foot in the door somewhere else. So I like to try to go as efficiently as I can. The target would be to finish the interviews probably by middle of September, and try to have somebody on board October 1st or middle of October. So, and reason for that is I think people that are, if they're a professional in another community or a professional, they want to give at least 2 weeks to a month's notice. So to make sure, so we'll lay out that schedule and get started on that pretty quickly. And then the last item, I appreciate Selectman McCaskill reminding me that there was a question I brought up about tree removal at the Harwich Elementary School. And I know I had a conversation with the superintendent. I could not remember, so I did follow up with him today. They had received a request that the trees were sickly and that they needed to come down. So they do have it slated in their plan to remove those trees. I think that's on South Street on that side of the building, if I remember right, on the Harwich Elementary School. So he is slated to have those trees taken down, and the reason for it is just unsafe, is what he told me as to why he's taking them down.
Yeah, I mean, I had an arborist look at those trees as well. And if they don't have a planting plan, Chris, maybe we could talk to Scott and find out what his intentions are, because he's looking to level about 8 trees there. Good-sized trees. 3 of them look very dead. The rest of them, the arborist that I spoke to said there's definitely some salvaging, but to take 8 trees out in front of that school with no cover is going to really open that. I think they need to rethink that.
Okay.
Or he should rethink it if he's taking them down because there was a request made of
Did
dead
the-
trees. I think we really need to look at.
Did the arborist identify which ones were healthy and which ones?
It's actually pretty obvious if you look at it.
Right.
I think Scott needs to review that. And if he has a planting plan to put something else there, but it really does open that hole. I mean, if that's his idea of expansion on parking, we should.
Yeah, no, from my conversation with him, it wasn't the idea of expansion. I think he was concerned that if trees branches fall, obviously they hit cars on the teachers' cars, but they also could fall into the road.
We could have that.
So he was doing that. But yeah, we could talk offline. Those were the items that I had this evening, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Under Selectmen's report, then we'll move on to that. Dan, since you're here, I have a question for you, if you could help us. For over a year now, I in particular, we have talked about getting those dead trees removed that are at the bike path and where off of 39, where the fire road comes in. And we were told we're going to get to it, we're going to get to it, we're going to get to it. Are we ever going to get to it? And I understand it's on your property.
Yes, well, it is my problem. Yeah, it's on my property. I actually had the town surveyor go out and survey the bounds of our property. He went out with one of our employees and just staked them. He is yet to actually physically survey them with his instrument. Once we do that, we'll be able to delineate a property line so I can get a quote. I'm going to try to have a land clearing company just come in and do it in a day or two so that we're not dragging it out any longer.
Okay.
So that's my where we're at right now. I'm just waiting to go out with him and formally survey it.
This is a couple acres of just dead trees out
Yeah.
there from the beetle borers, I guess, right? Must
Yeah.
be.
There's a big swath of
Yeah,
dead
So,
trees.
Thank you,
So
appreciate that.
that's-
Okay.
It's on my agenda.
All right, thank you very much.
All right.
And thanks for coming tonight, by the
Yeah,
way.
no problem.
Anybody else? Janelle, anything?
Nothing.
Michael?
Nope.
Linda, Angela, nothing? Okay. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.